Welcome to the EST Hangout.
This is the EST Hangout, and today's guests are...
A good Monday morning to you. Welcome to the EST Hangout presented by Sentinel Storage, live right here on Edmonton Sports Talk. Thanks to those tuning in live on TuneIn, iHeartRadio, EdmontonSportsTalk.com, or on YouTube. And also thanks to everyone listening to us on podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Matt Iwanyk, Tom Gazzola with you here as always, joining us today. Been a while since we had this gentleman on the Hangout. It is Dave Jamieson. I think the last time you were in the Hangout was with Dahmer for the 75th for the Elks. We've had you doing the morning shows, but then you've been busy with the Elks. And joining us today, Mark Rodgers does a couple of radio shows locally in the city, one on CJSR, one on CKUA. But welcome, Mark. It's good. It's good to have you here. I'm very excited about this.
I actually pitched you guys to come on. So thanks for having me.
No, I'm even more excited. I'm gonna shower him with praise in a little bit. This gentleman to my left, you're right if you're watching, is doing, I think, the three best hours of local radio and probably radio and other places too on Saturday nights on CKUA. It's called Open Nights.
So
Sorry, I said openness to anything a little heavier, right?
Yeah.
It's just so good, man. It is. I know everybody, you're getting your music in different ways now. This is how radio can and should be done.
I just want you to watch your mouth today, okay?
Yes, I will. I will
That's
not
all I'm
work
saying,
blue.
yeah.
I will not work blue today.
Dave was very excited that I let him know that Mark was coming on the show. And Dave's like, I want to be on too.
Yes, I booked myself.
Which is really cool because when I think you maybe direct messaged me on Twitter.
I did.
And I think I played Rainbow, like the band Rainbow.
Yes.
And it was Stargazer. And I love Ronnie James Dio. And
You should.
so I was like, yeah, like this will be sweet. Like just play. And then it was just super cool to get him like a direct message, like a cold email.
Yeah.
From Dave Jamieson, so it was pretty cool. We won't fawn over each other all show though. Trust me.
I think you guys go for it, and Tom and I will just sit here and enjoy.
So I just need to like tell people about CKUA though, just so they know.
Please do.
Like
Sure.
what we're chatting about. So it is a station that is on 16 like transmitters across the province. First radio station to stream in Canada in 1996 at CKUA.com. Still streaming right now. Started in 1927. So it was out of the University of Alberta, out of the Department of Extension. So we're approaching 100 years. So we kind of do it kind of the old-fashioned way. Like I have 3 hours on Saturday night. I get to pick all music. It is an unreal. So like this week's show was Queen because Eric Alper on Twitter said Queen was the only band to ever have all four members write 3 number 1 songs. I didn't play any of the number 1 songs.
No hits.
Damn.
But I got to, so when the Queen was the sort of theme for the rest of the show. So I played 2 Queen songs right off the bat, then Planet Queen from T-Rex, then Alice Cooper just for the heck of it. Then I made a connection to an arts and culture story because CKUA does 5 arts and culture stories a week. And that's long form interviews talking about like, so my connection to the Ballad of the Weird Sisters was the story about Goblin Macbeth, which is happening.
See what I said? Nobody's doing this kind of radio.
Yeah, so
like it's so thoughtful and curated.
And then,
what makes it
before
special.
Mark, you continue, I'll just say, like, if you listen to commercial radio in Edmonton, even like I will go behind the curtain a lot when they say it's open hour, you know, like your calls, your request line. It's not.
But it's still valid.
It's
still a valid form of radio, though.
100%.
No,
100%. But things have changed enough that there is a difference. Like when you go to a CKUA or CJSR, there is more curated music than it used to. Like then radio used to be a little more that way.
Oh,
we're
much
not
more.
that way as much anymore.
Yeah.
The music director was such an important position back in the day with radio. And that their role has evolved a little because of research and all that. So when you say like you're picking your songs, that's generally not what's happening anymore with more commercial radio.
Yeah.
They're picking great songs. They are taking some requests. When they do those hours, they do find ways to get some in. It's just not the whole hour.
So you're telling me Hot to Go isn't being requested every 3 minutes on Virgin?
Maybe not requested every 3 minutes, but all it takes is that one request, and that's a song. I'm like, yeah, we'll play it.
My
it
earth is
CanCon, or
shattered.
what is it? Is that it's got to be CanCon?
No,
track?
it's Chapel Roan.
Oh, of course. Yes.
So I'll let you continue with your.
No, I can't remember where it was.
You were
there.
going through your list.
Oh yeah, no. So
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
so then I just went through, but we also have to play new Canadian music. So I played Jade Elephant, which so there's a great new song called Bad Thing. So the Queen format though continued with Thunder Queens, Space Queen, and the Anti Queens. So I think let's see, three out of 3 are Canadian content. So I played those.
Yeah.
So that's also why I played them, but it also goes with the Queen theme. So then I had a text message come in. I got to play Queensryche, which is not a normal thing on CKUA. And then I went to Brass Queens. Then I went to King Mustafa, local band from like 20 years ago. And then I played Sue Foley, the Ice Queen. And then a text message came in for Vanilla Queen from Golden Earring,
Ooh.
Wow.
which is the same record as Radar Love,
Yes.
which is like one of the biggest radio songs of all time. Right? Like Radar Love is on the radio somewhere right now.
Great tune.
And the rest of the record is better than Radar Love. And so I got a text message.
As
and-
is often the case.
yeah. Well, and so I got a text message and I just was like, oh, here it is in the database. Send it over. So we have a huge database. Like the digital database has got to be like maybe 6 million songs or something like that.
I'm envious.
Remember
yes.
we wanted to
yes.
play songs for your show. We had a Bell database.
Huh.
And when we got into the Bell music, some station in Windsor had them, generally. I don't know why this station in Windsor had these metal songs.
Outlaws.
But they had
Windsor.
them. But there'd be a lot of other stuff we'd look for. And Dave, like, can you play this? I'm like, let me check the database.
We don't have
Nope.
it. We don't have it. Okay, just play,
Chapel
under
Roan.
pressure. Yes, Chapel Run.
I
Sorry,
wanna-
Maddie, we got you off course there.
I want to ask Mark something really quickly.
Yep.
Everyone talks about the CKUA building.
Yeah.
Is it haunted?
The old one is.
Ah, okay.
Oh, the other one down Jasper.
Yeah,
Yes.
so
yeah,
we-
The one with the whole seat, like, it has the design
the side
on
of the
it,
building.
which
Yeah,
is
the
in
logo,
CKUA right
which
now.
is like Jasper Ave and 105th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's some other things in there now, but we moved from there in 2012 and moved the record library, which is like one of the biggest record collections in the country. It's huge. It would take up this whole space, like your whole office, just the
believe
records and CDs. And the wall of 78s is like unreal.
You guys are now in the rebuilt
Alberta Hotel.
Alberta Hotel,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
so cool.
It's
Yeah.
pretty sweet. So if
Yeah.
anybody wants to come on a tour, like you can get a hold of me on the CKUA.com and I'll show you around. I used
I'll
to do
have
the
to do
building
that one day.
tours because I was part-time for a long time, like a really long time. And I went full-time in January 2019, right before the pandemic.
Damn.
This is the EST Hangout. It is presented by Sentinel Storage, Canada's storage experts, more than 2 decades of helping Canadians through life's transitions. Right now, offer ends January 31st, 75% off 12 weeks on 5x5 units. For more information, you can check them out, sentinel.ca, for more information. Lots that we will have to get to on the show today. We will continue with the community radio discussion. We do got to talk some Oilers, McDavid, Meyer suspensions, and some NFL discussion we will have to get into.
The suspensions haven't come down the pipe though yet. have they?
No, not
Hearings
yet.
today.
Yeah.
In person?
Today.
Is it an in-person? No,
Phones.
virtual?
Phones.
Okay,
So that
phones.
means it will be less than 5 games for them, which
As
is
it should be.
As it should be. It'll be interesting to see how much the NHL cares about entertainment.
Bad timing, hey?
Well, it's you give a game each, and they could play each other on Thursday.
Sure.
Yeah, right. The
You go
rematch is
2
Thursday.
more, but 2 or 3 games. You're then taking away that added rematch type thing.
It'll be a
That'll
game each with a stern talking to.
Do that again.
I will say,
Yeah, please.
if you go with the game each,
Yeah.
then I'll give the credit to the NHL for doing the right thing from an entertainment perspective. The attention that will be drawn on to the Oilers.
But we don't
Canucks.
do rivalries anymore.
But this is why I don't think the NHL will do that. The NHL will go 2-3 games for the 2 guys, whatever it is. There's a little less that goes into the rivalry because that's who the NHL is. Other leagues would maybe go, you want to know something? We got that game coming up. You guys, how dare you? Don't do it again. Finger wag. 1 game for
Is
each
this
of
a
them.
prime game, the next one, or are we getting this on the usual
No,
on the
Prime's
usual
just
platforms?
Prime's is just Mondays.
Just
for
Mondays.
certain
just
Mondays
Mondays.
games. But Bronco Nick Rigoletto's is on the main floor. Great food there with CQ.
Yes.
Rigoletto's is amazing. They moved from another
Thank
location.
you for the plugs. Thank you.
My dad actually knows the owner of it and stuff, and it's the top Italian
Yeah,
food
we
in
had
the city.
our Christmas party there, only natural, so it worked out pretty
It's
good.
amazing.
Mm.
Should we start with McDavid?
Why not?
Sure.
We've dipped our toe in that water. Let's go.
Let's jump in.
Jump in.
Where do you guys want to go? Like, obviously, I think everyone agrees it's suspension. I don't think there's anyone out there that doesn't think McDavid doesn't deserve a suspension. But leading up to that, like, where you get, like, I'm assuming post game, really, really fired up.
Oh, I think
on
we spent
Saturday.
like the first 25 minutes talking about that 40-second sequence. It was great. Yes, suspension. You can't cross-check a guy in the head. It doesn't matter if he was holding you down. That was a suspendable penalty situation. How bad? Not that bad, obviously. But I'm more concerned about how Connor is lashing out, as I say it with air quotes if you're not watching. I think he's getting frustrated at the treatment he's receiving from opponents.
Because there was a slew foot against Los Angeles.
Yes.
Right?
And then he was getting frustrated against Minnesota to the point where he throws a little sneaky, cold, dirty elbow to Marcus Johansson, who is on IR, by the way, to those saying he was faking it and did a great sell job. And then, the other night on Saturday where we saw Connor Garland, who is a rat and a very effective one at that.
Yes.
Ratted out on McDavid and to the point where Connor cross-checked him in the face. So, suspension. Connor shouldn't do that. Poor decision on his part. But, he was frustrated. It's just, to me, I'm looking at that. I'm like, well, now the best player in the world's getting angry.
Well, you got to validate feelings, right?
And
Feelings
we're
are real.
validating feelings.
Yes.
You got to validate that.
And I don't say the Oilers need a goon. I don't think, by the way, I said Jack Rempe fight yesterday was phenomenal. It was very rare we get one of those, but that was great. But you need somebody to tell the other team, like, do not touch him or I will absolutely break your face. And I'm sorry for the harsh term, but like they say stuff like that with a bunch of expletives and it usually deters the opponent from doing stupid things.
It's funny how after that play, and then you wait like 3 beat, 1, 2, 3, someone conjures up Messier.
Yeah.
Someone goes, if Mess were here, when Mess was here, he did that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's always our point of reference.
That was a long time ago, and the game has changed quite a bit.
I know, and that's where I was about to head with that, which is, please. We all, those of us of a certain age, we watch Mark Messier do all of that, nightly, routinely. But again, it's a different sport.
Mm-hmm.
It might look the same to you. It is not played the same. It's not officiated the same. And so, but I love that that's the callback to Messier. Yeah, well, Mess would have just slammed his head through the turnbuckle.
What else?
True.
What else do you expect though? Like out of Edmonton though, isn't that like the? Like, I mean, what else would we have?
Well,
I don't know. We got so much else though. That's not what I meant.
If we want to dig into the past, you'd be like, well, Doug Waite would have stood up for himself. Yeah, Doug Waite was a little pit bull Tasmanian devil. Like
I'm
wasn't
okay
afraid.
with McDavid juice. Like, give it a go, buddy. Like, if nobody else is doing it, you gotta give him a little pop. Big deal.
See, and I don't think the team needs as much toughness to deal with this. I think that the NHL needs to do a better job with their officials of protecting the stars. I'll go that far. Like, if you want to. You want to understand why the NHL has dropped to a degree in terms of the tension and love people have from it, is that we as a league and the refs by directive of the league is they want to level the playing field and they want to take the stars and bring them down closer to the third, fourth liners as opposed to telling the third, fourth liners, be better. Get better and allow the stars to shine. And there's a situation where, it leads up to that moment, but Garland could just go and hold on to McDavid and the refs don't even call a penalty for it because we got to bring everyone down, all the stars down to another level as opposed to allowing the stars to shine. I don't ever want to get it so far where we see Patrick Mahomes type stuff here.
Gonna say, like,
we don't need it where it's that protective of it.
That was pretty
but
gnarly.
go watch Lamar and Josh Allen yesterday, and those are two stars. They're protected, but they weren't getting those Mahomes calls. But if you came in a little cheap on them or something, there would have been a flag last night. But there's a way to have your stars protected where you also then don't go too far. And I think that what we've seen now with McDavid for a long stretch of time where he's frustrated is that he doesn't get protected.
Yeah.
And it's because, and the Oilers could do a better job of having that toughness and doing it on themselves.
Yeah.
I think there's a bigger issue though in the NHL for not just McDavid, all stars. And I remember having these conversations back on the Dave Jamieson show and stuff. I've been upset with the NHL for a number of years that they don't protect their star players enough. That's who people want to go watch. And when you're having a McDavid frustrated because he can't get the room because somebody's doing something illegal and not getting called for it, he's going to get frustrated.
But hockey has found itself trying to straddle uncomfortably the fence here between wanting to entertain in 2025 and with all of the things that are going on around sports and contact sports in terms of, protecting the human brain and all of the other things, eliminating fighting because we're told that Americans, that was some impediment to them embracing the sport more than they were, which seems ridiculous to me because they've had hockey in the U.S. for a very, very long time, and they seem to enjoy it with and without fighting. So I don't know why we're still trying to worry about selling the game to Americans. It seems like they've ponied up and they've made their decision and they seem to enjoy it well enough. But you look around at the people that are shaping opinion in terms of hockey and what we're watching, and people like Spit and Chicklets and other people what I have influence on our opinions around the game. Some don't want guys like McDavid to get extra space and time. You got to earn it. Hockey's always seemingly been about you got to earn your place on the ice.
Yeah, hasn't he
you
earned
earn
it
your
yet, though?
space.
Like, is he not
Yes, he is.
Yes.
Are we still going on that? Like, really? Because that can't be the case. Because then he's earned it. No.
He has. I appreciate him standing up for himself too.
I do too.
Because it's not happening otherwise. So he's got to do it himself.
Exactly.
That's okay.
Maybe instead of like the carbon fiber chop to the chin, a nice sturdy punch will do next time.
Yeah, would have been sweet if he just dropped the gloves,
or just
punch
those
him.
are his hands. I know, but I know
that
what you're
would be
saying.
inspiring, no? Like, just
Sure.
he just dropped his gloves. Like, although there was it's at the end of the game.
Mark, even if he punched Connor Garland with his glove on, and then they went to the ground and tackled and wrestled, that would have been sufficed.
Because the one on Bouchard looked pretty gnarly too.
That was bad.
That is the more egregious of the two.
Yeah.
And I realize we're sitting here arguing what was the worst cross-check to the face. I know that's not an argument that's really worth anyone's time. They're both bad, but you're right. The Myers one was like, good Lord, man.
Why? There's McDavid's was you're frustrated by something that happened instantaneously.
Yeah.
Myers had time to think about that.
Yeah.
And that's where it's worse to me.
Yeah.
So
is
they
there
should
any-
be at least equal suspensions. There's no way Myers should have less than McDavid.
Yeah.
Is there any other sport where there's the penalty is there's one where if you bleed, it's more? Is there any other sport that has that?
God, that's a
I don't
great
believe
question.
it.
Like-
I don't know if rugby has something like that. I'll let
Navy,
other
right?
people a question. That'd be the only other
But
sport.
rugby is honor.
They do, but I don't know if there's maybe something
That's-
with cuts that help. But football, no. Basketball, obviously not.
The only thing with baseball is if you target the head or throw behind a guy, then the severity is worse, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
See, I don't think
I always
so.
thought
I'm
that
going to
was
say
great.
no.
I'm bleeding, so it's 4 minutes
More
now.
penalty.
That's checking. If you bite your lip, try to get
Cut that as much as you can, as quickly as you can. I will say this. I respect what Garland did there. He made a great play.
Yeah.
He held McDavid for that end, and he eliminated his star player. And what was the worst thing that was going to happen to Garland on that play?
He's gonna get a cross check to the teeth.
Okay, for that, but for the team wise, he maybe gets a penalty, which he ends.
Yeah.
But by the time the Oilers give up the puck and the Canucks get it, how much time is left on the clock, which leads to an ensuing face-off, which, the Oilers have one shot at tying that hockey game,
There's 2
basically.
seconds left.
Right, so that's where it's it was a brilliant play.
His awareness of what at the time of the game was.
100%. It reminds me of a John Harbaugh play from years ago. Actually, this was in the Super Bowl. He first did it. No one caught it in the Super Bowl. He did it against the Bengals, and then the NFL immediately put in a rule in place after that. Was at the end of the game on a punt, he had his entire team hold, so no one could get to the punter. He ran out the clock because it was even if the flag gets thrown, clock runs off. So all they have to do is take a knee and the game is over.
You're right.
The NFL immediately changed the rule on that once they noticed it the second time. Like, oh, hold on. I don't know if the NHL can look at this and try to figure out something else that maybe in the final minute of play, if there's an ensuing a penalty, this is a soccer type thing. If there's an advantage,
Can't game the system forever.
well, I'm saying if there's a way that you don't see an advantage, you immediately blow it dead and call the penalty. so that the team could get the power play right away. But Garland took advantage of a situation, and I'm going to give him credit for that. That is from a Canucks perspective, that was a great play on his
I
part.
think Eric called it the dark arts.
Yes.
Yes,
But
that's
then,
what
like,
it
dark
is.
arts.
But diving in soccer and football or whatever you want to call it is brutal, if you ask me. Like, it's hard to watch.
You're only
is.
watching the most egregious ones. Most games aren't like that.
Right. So that's, I guess, a little education on my end, which is, but I mean, the Mahomes thing, like, it's a little hard to like listen to somebody that's super in, like, I mean, I'm not want to rip on Eric, but like, he was just like, oh, that you can't Mahomes diving like that is like, it's unacceptable, or however you worded it this morning. And I was just like, but you really like all the soccer's like just as bad. Like,
But when you watch soccer,
you can't call it out.
the difference is when you see that egregious, like the Mahomes one. When that happens in soccer people generally will go, that's a bad dive. That shouldn't happen.
I like dark arts, I guess. I'm trying to compliment him by saying dark arts.
Oh, it's a perfect term for it.
It's a really good term for it, but like in the end, you gotta be able to sleep at night, I guess, right? In your head. Like, like, so if you're cool with it, then I guess the moral thing in the end could be in my
They
opinion.
won the Canucks hockey game,
Yeah.
and they beat a division rival.
And everybody's doing it, right?
And now
So-
Canucks fans think that they won the Stanley Cup. Basically, it was such an important game for Canucks
Now
fans.
that is very draining.
great.
The whole Canucks Edmonton thing, and like I don't know. I don't have energy for that sort of
That
jazz.
franchise does internal combustion like no other. Historically, and I know, having grown up there from day one, the
You
Vancouver
covered their
Canucks,
cup run in '94,
yes. Yes, the Canucks can get eaten from within. And it looks like, I mean, until either JT Miller, and it looks like he's going to be the guy that they offload here to get out of this whole mess. Yeah. And I realized that where we're broadcasting, which I know is across the entire universe.
Around the globe, yeah.
Yes. There aren't a lot of people feeling sympathy for the Vancouver Canucks in these parts, but yeah, that was a big win just to make that stuff go away for 24 to 48 hours.
And it was against the Edmonton Oilers, and
At home on a Saturday night.
they're all excited now, and we'll see what comes out of that. Now we wait to see the rematch on Thursday between these two teams.
You talked about the Harbaugh play with the hold and the dark arts, like Mark's talking about, that Garland played to a T. Ben Scrivens came on the postgame show the other night when we were at the Oilers alumni bonspiel, and he said on the air, he's like, I used to tell the guys on D, if we're protecting a lead in the last minute, take a penalty, do whatever you can to impede, do it. Because if we take a penalty, they blow the whistle. Sure, they get a power play, but for what, like 9 seconds? Just do it. Hold their stick, grab them, let me see the puck.
Because also by the time the ref blows the whistle,
Exactly.
by the time, there's even more time that comes
Game's
off.
over. Dark arts.
Get away with it. I mean, give it a shot, right?
Exactly.
And and that's where other leagues like the NFL, they see things like that and go, oh, maybe we need to correct this. The NHL takes their time with these type of things, and then they sit there and we go, and it might come up.
Hockey likes problems to go away
on its own,
right?
But it's like maybe one day this will be brought up at a GM meeting, and then it'll be pushed to the next GM meeting, and then it'll be pushed one more GM meeting, and then maybe they'll put something in place.
Like, how long did neutral zone trap go? How long was that
A
era?
decade and a half?
Right? Now that was something
90s.
that really limited, if not inhibited, the entertainment value of hockey, right?
Totally.
Jacques Lemaire and the Minnesota Wild and all of that time. But hockey likes stuff to just kind of fix itself.
Yeah. Remember,
Just fix
If you
itself.
think about the red line though, too, right?
Two-line
How
pass.
long ago
Yes.
did that get taken out? And like now,
05.
it's even like hard to think about how we used to watch it. Like I watched, I had the Oilers like 10 best games on like DVD, right?
Right.
And I went and watched like something from 87 or 88. I couldn't watch it. It was like they're just lollygagging around. There's like there's a minute and a half between each whistle. I'm like, oh my god, I
Old
can't
hockey's
watch it.
hard.
Yeah,
Old
it's
hockey's
hard to
remember
watch.
hard to
COVID
watch.
in the start, they put some old games that you came with me one day, and you're just like, Matt, those games are not good.
It was Mario versus Gretzky.
Yeah.
And they played that. I don't know if COVID had officially hit us right between the eyes yet. It was early days.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in, it would have been very early days, like in a Brewster's. And they had this game on. It was the, Pittsburgh here, Gretzky.
Mm-hmm.
Unwatchable. like unwatchable. You're seeing like Mike Bullard falling down, taking a pass, coming down the wing. A very good hockey player in his day, but you're like, that was the NHL? Really?
Yeah. Remember, like they slap pass to each other.
Oh, absolutely.
You're like, why did that guy wind up to pass it 60 feet? Because that's how it was.
No, I won't abide those conversations about how hockey was better then. No. What you're seeing right now is the game played at the highest level humanly possible until someone else comes along to do it better. I'm sorry.
But like, we're so lucky though. Like, come on. To have McDavid and Dry, like every day, I'm just like, how lucky are we? Like, I remember being at the Fort Edmonton Park Dinner Theater, going to see a Johnny Cash tribute show. Oh yeah, and I'm following along.
What a great story already.
I'm following along on Twitter to see what happened in the draft, and we're waiting for our steaks because like the restaurant is just slammed. I don't think they had enough people, so we're like 45 minutes on these steaks, all good. We didn't miss a show, but I was like, Dad, we just won McDavid. Like, I was just in shock. I couldn't, so I'll never forget where I was when that happened. And then like, oh yeah, we got Draisaitl too. Like, so I don't think it's improper to like just sit back and try to realize like how lucky we are to watch this every day. It's so sweet. Like, and in 15 years, we'll be like around for that. We're like so lucky.
Well, I will give Oilers fans credit. Because I think the entire time, and I'm just going to go with McDavid. I think Oilers fans are still completely in awe of what McDavid does. There could have been a point, absolutely, but there could have been a point where you're just so used to it that he does something amazing. You're like, yeah, that's Connor.
Yeah, like once a game.
But Oilers fans still are amazed by what he does, and they're not taking him for granted. And I appreciate that Oilers fans are not, just wasting away these years. That they're not just sitting there going, yeah, of course he did something great. Like he made that play. He's Connor McDavid. They're going, holy crap, did you see that play? Even though they've seen it countless times from McDavid, he still keeps all Oilers fans in awe. I'll give Oilers fans credit for that.
A game with my mom, and like, I'll just get up and yell and stand up and be like, oh, did you just see? Like, well, at least once a game. And then especially in the playoffs, that goal against Dallas, like I was just
that was
like,
crazy.
We are so... It's so sweet.
There's even plays he makes that aren't goals that you go like, where it's almost goals or something. Like, how is he doing this? Like, it's just absolutely incredible. Strumming the nasty chat. I hear what Matt's saying. There's good penalties take. The issue isn't with Garland's, with the ref not calling it. It's not a bang bang play. He's manhandling him for like 20 seconds. Call it. And I get that. And the arm should have gone up by the official. But the thing is, when does that play end? When like the arm goes up doesn't mean that immediately the play ends and the Oilers go on a power play.
That's true.
The Canucks need to get possession or need to touch the puck, and then a whistle, and then there's a face-off, and it was already 6-on-4. Well, no, it was 6-on-5. Sorry, 6-on-5.
6-on-5.
So it would have went to 6-on-4, but like it's. I know I saw some people like, well, the Oilers would immediately just give the puck up to the Canucks. I don't think we generally see that from hockey teams. Like they still try to score because they got the extra man. But by the time a face-off happens, even at best, it's going to be 15 seconds left.
Hey, that's pretty tough. That's
where I think the NHL needs to come up with something a little different where it's like, maybe is there a better way of seeing that late penalty where the team is playing the dark arts and you get an advantage still to the other team and we take away those dark arts?
I don't think the NHL, in terms of, is this a teachable moment, that they're going to look at this as anything other than some chaos at the end of a game.
100%.
Like, I don't think change, significant or even mild change, is coming to the NHL because of what happened there. Really, I mean, it was a tempest in a teapot. The whole thing, but
other leagues will do it.
Of course,
that's the thing. Other leagues will do, like Rip City saying 5v3, time goes back on the clock to when the penalty was taken, maybe as an idea for a rule thing. Like other leagues would start having these conversations. The National Hockey League just goes business as usual.
Sure.
The NBA could do elam ending. That would be great, as an aside. But
I wonder if the suspension, though, is going to, like, the time of the season is going to be, like, this was, like, right near the, I don't know. If it was right near the, no,
they'll be like, you can't cross-check a guy in the face.
And he'll go, games. Yeah, you're right.
Garland got up pretty quickly. So it doesn't seem like there's an injury factor there. So there's not going to be like, well, Garland might be hurt for a few
they're still
games.
doing that where it's like, hey, buddy's injured, then
100% they still do that.
Yes.
Hang on.
Oh.
will they look back at Marcus Johansson earlier in the week and be like, you did catch a guy and gave him a concussion? And the NHL's bad like that.
They can't, though, because they gave him no fine.
Yes.
They didn't even give him a fine for that, so they said that play was fine.
I know they shouldn't and they can't, but it is the NHL, and we do not trust the Department of Player Safety for good reason.
Whatever McDavid gets, Myers needs the same, if not more.
Is still Peros?
And
George Peros guy still doing that?
I like it's there, and that's where though the NHL, if you care about entertainment, it's one game for each.
Yeah,
Does he still
one
have a
game
great
for each.
mustache,
Let's see them all out there on
he has
Thursday.
a tremendous mustache, Mark.
Yeah?
Yeah, he was here
That's
a couple of weeks
role
ago.
that needs to
Is he still rocking it?
roll
yeah.
through,
I know.
I believe. The head of
Like
player
you think it
safety.
should be like a times
Yes.
period? Like you've done it for 3 years.
You get 3 years in
Somebody
the role
else
or
comes in or
whatever.
something like
There is I think that there should be a time limit on that. You need fresh eyes.
What's the combo though of that group? Is it like a players association people and NHL people, or
One time it was Brian Burke. One time it was Mike Murphy. One
but it's
time
a
it was
team.
Patrick.
He's gotta be-
Brendan Shanahan
Brendan
was the top
Shanahan.
because it was Brendan Shanahan, and I think Rob Blake was his second.
like a team of people, obviously?
And they did,
Yeah.
and Brendan Shanahan released the videos. He
Yes.
launched the videos, and everyone was like, "This is
They'd
the
have
greatest
like
thing ever."
explanations
Yeah.
behind
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Um,
But they're not doing the explanations anymore? or-
Sometimes
they're
they do.
still out there. It's
Yeah.
just not as produced.
Yeah.
Like Brendan Shanahan would come on camera and be like, "This
He was
in
green screen
7:21 of the second period,
Yeah.
the Edmonton Oilers," and he'd like really monotone it. But
So do we
they'd
know
explain.
why
I don't think
the
Peros
refs
does.
don't have to talk after
The league
games?
doesn't want them to.
Is there a union? Do refs have a union that are
believe
like,
they have
an
that's like,
association,
hey,
right?
like
Yeah.
we're not doing that kind of
Yeah.
thing?
But I don't
Or-
think the league wants them talking.
Obviously, right?
Which is
I-
a shame.
The last time I remember locally, anybody talking to an official after a game, this was like 08, somewhere around there. Mick Magoo
Okay, yeah.
was still reffing. It was right at the end of his reffing career when he was on the ice. And something happened.
Was it the Horkoff faceoff where he called an illegal faceoff or something, but the Oilers scored really quick?
It might have been
something like
because
that?
I was covering the game for the Score. I remember that. So this is between 07 and 2010, and I remember in the media room, and I'm just young, whatever. I have no say, but all the media got together and said, "Hey, Jim Matheson,
Did a
You're-
pool reporter.
you're the pool guy.
reporter, yeah.
Go and see if you can talk to Mick Magoo and get an explanation." And sure enough, Maddie, whoever he had to contact somebody, they said yes. Go to the refs room, go talk to Mick Magoo, and you'll get you got 5 minutes or something like that. And he got some quotes and provided them to the rest of the media.
And that was the last time ever.
That was the
That was
last
like-
I can
Yes.
remember.
That
We
was
will
it.
not do that again.
That was it.
And that was 16, 17 years ago. I haven't seen or heard an incident like that around the rink since then. And it was so abnormal. I'm like, we can do that?
I
That
got
is a
$10
thing?
says there's a union behind the refs saying like, you know what, we're just gonna like
Well, they got
hold
to have
on
someone
to
protecting their interests,
Right.
right? I would
I think
assume
the
it's-
league does.
The league
I
has.
think the league is the forefront of that. But yeah, they have some kind of union
like the PA,
association.
right? Like the NHL PA. Like
Yeah.
If there's a refs version of that, maybe I don't know.
There is. I'm pretty sure there
Right.
is. Yeah.
Well, they need to go a little more behind the curtain on that, or to like appease.
They just don't. They just say
but they're
no.
not going to. Yeah,
No.
obviously.
No, can't
But
talk
would
to them.
would that help people complaining about it if they
Probably
just
not.
drew the curtain a little more?
with
have
the
my notes.
role
Dude, but
of,
we want people complaining. 'cause
want it,
That's
yeah.
like this whole thing, right?
because
Yeah.
that's interest. The complaining is interest, and I think sometimes we think that the complaining and all the conversation we have on the various platforms we're on is a negative. It's drawing more attention to your
fun.
product,
True.
and sometimes it's not always entirely positive, but that is still interest.
Yep.
It is still engagement.
But you're right, JMO. The NHL being the NHL and how it has operated over decades and decades would just let that fizzle out on its own.
Right.
And we move on and, oh, look at this shiny nice thing over here.
Reed Wilkins in the Nasty Chat said, asked Bettman a few years ago why refs don't do post game. He said he didn't think it would be helpful and that English isn't the first language of all the officials.
That is such a cop-out crap answer, and I'm glad Reed asked that.
Well, I mean, the first one, it wouldn't be helpful is the same as when he said that the new board ads, remember the digital ads came up and he said fans love it. I remember he came on, I was like, no, we're not hearing any complaints. It's like, dude, you're not paying attention at all then. So that one was a complete lie.
Totally.
The English isn't the first language.
That's a
Reed is a
brutal-
skilled interviewer. I'm guessing Reed raised a Spockian eyebrow when he heard that answer coming from the commissioner. Really? Well,
Oh.
hockey is played in many languages.
It sure is.
Many languages.
There's a great book about that called Tropic of Hockey.
And there's also two NHL officials on the ice. There's two per game. I'm assuming one is generally knows how to speak English. I don't think they're putting two French speaking refs on the ice.
Could those linesmen have called the McDavid thing or no?
If it's like, well, that ended up being a match penalty. So if they
No,
see
but like
something,
the Garland on McDavid.
oh, not the Garland, on
the
McDavid,
linesman
no.
can't call it.
The cross check to the face, they
They can obviously
make that
Which
aware.
I don't know how the ref doesn't see that.
Well, obviously,
And that's the thing. Like we shouldn't be needing the linesman to call that one. I just still think that, Strummy's not happy with me when he had nothing to
Strummy.
Yeah, Strummy has nothing to do with it. It's a penalty. Put your hand up, do your job. What a stupid argument. And I specifically said the arm should have gone up. It should have been called a penalty. But I don't think once the arm goes up, Garland's also going to stop holding him. McDavid's still going to get frustrated. McDavid's still going to do that because the play's not going to be dead immediately. As soon as the arm goes up, the play's not dead. And that's why it's like I think it was a great play by Garland in that sense. Officials should speak. We see them
They
baseball. And it's not like they need to go to a podium, right?
No.
It should be just a pool reporter. All the reporters sit there and be like, hey, who do we send?
Yep.
Pick the one person. They go, they ask their 2-3 questions. What did you see? Why didn't this happen? Whatever it is, be accountable.
Would you have them speak the availability there every game? Do you have that?
I think it's
Who
a
makes
request.
the call? Who makes the call? Is that the Writers Association head who is in attendance?
The chapter chair.
The chapter chair in that rink on that night says, okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have consensus here.
Yeah.
Am I going, or is an appointed pool reporter going to go down to the room after and ask for this? Do we have a majority? Yeah, okay.
I think it is like that.
Or is it playoffs only? Is it Stanley Cup only? I mean, I'm not
has to be
opposed to it. I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah.
I
I don't know. I'd have to ask like Spec, because Spec is the guy who knows, or Maddie, what the etiquette around that is, and how, or the protocol, how we go about handling that. But I think it is the local reporters come together and then even talk to the visiting reporters if there are any, which is less and less
becoming
now.
less. Yeah.
And be like, do we need to address this? Okay, I'll contact so-and-so, and then we'll see if we can get 5 minutes with the official. I think there is a bit of a process to it. I'd have to double check with them, but
how it should work is that it's because it's not every game people want to speak.
No,
to.
no.
It's games like this where it's a bigger deal.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would just be the chapter chair of one of the teams puts in the request, we want to speak, and then it's up to, I don't know, the NHL make that decision of whether you grant it or not. I think they would know also, okay, certain games you need it. You're not going to allow there was a missed hold in the first period of some game. You're going to no, you're not talking to the ref for that. Games like this, there are certain other ones that we've seen where everyone knows what's going to be the story. Are the refs part of the story of this game?
and it was Wes McCauley who likes to be a part of the story of the game.
So now he's a story. So now it should be allowed to be asked about it. And I think most people should have common sense across the board, whether fans, media, players, coaches, refs, to know, is the ref part of this game or not?
Is this something that, as we continue to lumber along here with wagering, gambling, the connectedness now to what we're watching in all of sports, is this something that should be part of the evolution? Because transparency, right? Because with so much at stake now with every single game in terms of dollars wagered, does it help the situation, confuse the situation?
Well, I think it's been influenced by gambling like forever, though, right?
But now the league's accepting the money.
Yes,
that's the big difference here. Everything, and it comes to, especially, this is more football than other sports, but across sports, injury reports. How much more open do you have to be with injury reports? Yeah. All of this stuff now, because you're as a league are going to these gambling outlets and taking their cash now. You have embraced gambling. You now have to give gamblers information, but you also have to be more.
We are coming out of that closet. We are out of that closet. We are fully, and you're right, though. I was going to go there with the no more upper body. I know hockey's still got
or undisclosed
1 foot in that undisclosed and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
It's full transparency. And with football, is it 24 hours before what's the
what's a timeline? Like the Wednesday is the first injury reports. And then there's, I think, is it Thursday, Friday? There's 2 more injury reports in the NFL. And then it's like morning of.
Yeah, morning of game.
Out. Like it's a certain hour before you announce whether they're out or they're in or anything like that. And if a player happens to miss a game, but they weren't on the injury report, it's a big deal. Like it's investigated. Like how did this like?
Oh yes,
you have to be a lot more transparent. And the CFL has now added the injury report too.
Yeah, day 1, day 2, all that stuff. I actually like that.
So, and, now if a ref has these games and it influences a game, like a ref influences every game, but in a negative way like this, there's going to be those gamblers going, you're screwing my game up.
Well, and I don't think like the leagues maybe need to do anything, or like the refs. There's enough people with that will be analyzing and barfing out statistics about the refs and about all of the calls that I don't think the league really needs to spend money or and amalgamating statistics about calls and there's enough other people that will do that sort of on an amateur level that I think they're just gonna you don't need to spend the money on that, so they're just gonna keep status quo. Like they don't have to do anything. Just let it rock.
It go. Just fade off.
I think fans just want to know because in the end we could look at playoff assignments and realize who are the good refs, who aren't the good refs, and who loses an assignment, maybe who doesn't.
Well, and they're getting analyzed or getting critiqued all the time.
But I think refs are fans want to see if you have multiple games of screw ups, what kind of punishment are you getting from behind closed doors? Make that a little more public, just to give the hounds want a little bit of meat.
But there's going to be enough meat that's generated by others that it's
all speculation. They want something official from the league that you're saying to Wes McCauley, he's missing a game because of it.
It's a combo of speculation and statistics. So I still think that leagues can get away with just not worrying about it.
But the NBA does the 2-minute report.
Yes, they do.
At the end of each game.
What's that? Tell me what that is.
At the end of each game, they go through all the calls at the last 2 minutes and they say whether the ref got it right or wrong. The NFL comments a lot on the ref. The NFL came out, whether rightfully or wrongly, whatever you want to make of it. They said all the calls were right in the Chiefs games with Patrick Mahomes. Those leagues, they do come out, they do say those things. We never get the NHL ever coming out and be like, they got this right.
I think the NHL too, by the way, and I should have added this earlier, is spooked by sure, they have a Wes McCauley who will speak and has personality and all that, but then they have the Tim Peel side of things, and I think that the NHL, being the NHL, gets more spooked than any other league, and avoids at all costs or lets it go away, like Jamie was saying. But Tim Peel, who you had a great encounter with recently, yeah, he's a different cat.
Let's go with that one.
Not a big fan of him, but I think that they look at that and they go, remember Tim Peel? And then everybody at the boardroom goes, yeah, that's no good. And then they just...
The NFL does many things very well, and certainly around their broadcast, having rules experts, former officials, part of the broadcast is excellent. It is. I think something that has to happen.
The NHL doesn't want it.
They had Don Jackson.
And he does it for ESPN, and he was the first one. But for a while, I think Sportsnet tried and stuff, and the NHL didn't want to join it, to be part of it. They didn't want their refs. They didn't want anyone from the league to be part of that. Because to everything you're saying, they're spooked by it.
And that goes back to just in general how bad hockey refs are.
Hockey's got a self-esteem problem.
Yes.
The NHL has a self-esteem problem.
Is it more of a self-awareness problem, though?
Well, okay. It's something with self at the front end of it. Yes.
But I think that can trickle all the way down to even just rec hockey, because I play in the super low divisions of the CCRHL, literally entry level. A couple of years ago, I could barely skate. And there's people that come and play that are shouldn't be playing in division, but their self-awareness is minimal, because they're what are you talking about? You're just skated around everybody and went between the legs and tried to score top cheese, and half the guys can't skate. So I just don't. So self-awareness, I think,
that's so hockey,
right there. It's just self-awareness.
Yes,
and that's on it seems like every team.
That's fair.
It's just come on, just some of us are trying to have fun, and so self-awareness maybe over. I don't know. It's just maybe a hockey thing in general. I don't know. Can I make a connection back to CKUA though? And
Go for it.
Of course.
because you were talking about the broadcast, right?
Yes.
So I went to Cleveland, part of the international, so there's a union at CKUA, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. Hey everybody, my name is Mark. I do a show on CKUA Saturdays from 9 till midnight. It's called Open Nights, just to let people know who I am.
The reset. CJSR
And I used to
Friday
work
mornings.
With, I used to
Mayhem
work
in
with
the
Rick,
AM.
7:06 to 9 o'clock.
Yeah, and I used to work with Rick Pinter. So if you're wondering why I'm here, I used to work with Rick Pinter. So I got a couple of Rick Pinter stories.
Wow.
All
But-
right.
but
Okay,
you're talk-
now the conversation shifts.
You're talking about the broadcasts, and I went down to Cleveland for the BMT, the Broadcast Manufacturers and Telecommunications Conference, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. And we have members part of the Super Bowl broadcasts.
No
Same union
Yeah.
as CKUA. And
Yeah,
we're
I bet.
they just nailed, actually, because this was last April, they just nailed the contract to do all the PGA broadcasts.
Really?
So that's the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. So that's a direct connection to CKUA in Edmonton, which is I thought
like
was
it.
really cool. They get a huge presentation on all the cameras and all of the, the equipment they went into, broadcasting. And they did a little bit on like the Doink Cam and all of the members that are working there. So it was pretty cool to be able to kind of feel like I'm sort of indirectly part of some pretty high level broadcasting. It's
I
pretty
would-
cool.
That's like the highest level.
Yeah, I'd love to see it
Obviously,
behind the
yes.
scenes of the Super Bowl, like a production level.
Yeah, it was
Amazing.
pretty
Like,
cool.
I don't need to watch a football. Like if I could fly out and not watch this football game, I'd be more than okay with that, just to see how they execute.
Let me sit quietly in the truck.
Yeah, then like who's broadcast this year? Fox? Yeah, I think it's Fox this year.
it?
Yeah, because I think it's Brady on the broadcast this year.
Ah,
They do that long pregame show that starts at like
Yes.
6 a.m. or whatever, and they go all until the end. And it's like I want to see that whole day of production. Like
I'd like to
where's
see the week leading
switch?
up to it. I'd
Oh,
like
yeah.
to see the features that get produced, which are often excellent. How much of that work? Like I know you're doing a lot in the can where possible, but obviously there's stories that emerge coming out of the game prior, right?
yep.
I'd love to see the setup of Radio Row. Like there are
You
I don't
guys have to be going. EST has
One
got
day-
to have a presence at a Super Bowl.
I agree.
Yeah, it's
I
one
mean,
of
God,
those.
Moj,
we were
Rod Peterson will be there.
I know. Well, we were at Super Bowl last year, and we couldn't get on Radio Row because we were in the city. We applied too late because we didn't know we were going to Vegas for the Oiler game and
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
But there's hundreds of radio shows that are going to be broadcasted from the Super Bowl, and just getting that room set up.
and just having enough like bandwidth
Exactly.
to get everybody
All-
to broadcast properly,
Yeah.
whether it's wireless or hardline.
And
like,
it's
holy
small
moly.
stations. It's stations from Canada all the way upwards to, the Rich Eisens and all of those of the world, the Dan Patricks of the world. And now some of them now go to different locations also and make it even bigger. But to see how that all happens.
There was like a
Be
5-minute
fascinating.
video. It was all behind the scenes stuff, and it was like the coolest thing. And
Yeah.
and then we had two executives, one from Paramount. Oh, and what was the other one now? A major one where like Law and Order gets pumped out of. And they came in. They used to be union members, but they're now executives, and they told us all about this new broadcast technology to be able to, instead of taking like 2 days to distribute Law and Order or whatever, their new system could do it like in hours. And it was really cool because they're like, yeah, is it Dick Wolf that does the
Right.
They're like, yeah, now he's like producing it like, and it's not even in the can 24 hours before it gets broadcast.
Wow.
Like across the country. And I was like, oh, I went home and told my mom, I was like, hey mom, we watched Law and Order. And like, did you know that it was like, it's actually getting shot almost, it could be like right up into 24 hours out. It was pretty cool.
They're South Parking it.
Is that what happened?
Yeah,
Is that what they used to do?
they get that tape. Well, they used to get the tape fresh to wherever they distributed, and it was like day of. So, but that was an animated program, right? So a little bit different. I think they had everything in house.
Yeah. the
Well,
production
and
on
it's
that.
not like Simpsons Family Guy animated. It's done in a way that they could do it quick.
Yeah.
Like Simpsons Family Guy animation stuff takes months.
Yeah.
Not years, months to
I want
get
to
done.
see like that production timeline, right? From like writing to like finished product.
Well,
would be,
there
like,
is a
shocking.
doc though of South Parks.
Yeah.
They did an entire week.
Oh, cool.
They did it from their first discussion of what the episode's going to be about all the way to sending it to Comedy Central to air it.
Yeah.
And it is, and like Bill Hader's in there all of a sudden at some point. He was part of the writer's room for a little bit and they're just laughing their jokes. But yeah, they're
That's fun.
And
That would
they've
be
had
fun.
Midweek, they changed things.
Matt and Trey have talked with the creators about how like there've been a couple times where they thought they weren't going to get it in time because they could do it right away. Whereas like the other animation shows, they take so long to do animations, and that's why those shows they can't be as timely with their jokes. And South Park could have something happen today,
Right.
and have it on for next week's episode, just like that.
I'll just add this: there was Discovery Channel did a documentary, and it had this series, and it chose the Grey Cup. It was the 100th Grey Cup in Toronto, and they followed Chopper around, Paul Hemming.
Yes.
And they did the
I worked
entire
that cup.
Yeah, and
Lenny
'cause-
Kravitz was the halftime, I
Yes.
believe, if I'm not
What?
mistaken. Yeah.
and Bieber was there too.
Oh, that
and-
different story. Yeah. Yes. And it was the Bieber one with Gordon Lightfoot.
Gordon
I
Lightfoot
think.
was part of
Yes.
it.
right.
Yes.
Hey, we're celebrating Canadians.
That's right.
I have a great Gordon Lightfoot story for you guys that Lanny McDonald told me that's inappropriate for the air.
Oh,
I'll tell
okay.
you
I was
guys
about to be like, I'm excited.
Sorry to tease, but Chopper was like the focal point of this hour-long documentary, and it was phenomenal. And we're talking about the Grey Cup 13 years ago now,
Right.
and the production value that went into it, and all of the moving parts. I was fascinated by it. Obviously, we're in the industry, so we're
Watch somewhere out there
somewhere
on
out
the
there.
web, as Baba would say, is a doc that NFL Films shot of the Grey Cup 1999 in Vancouver.
Really?
Nice.
They came in and did it, and you've got the full NFL Films treatment with all of the camera. Remember, it's 1999. It's in Vancouver. It's Calgary versus Hamilton, and it's got to live out there somewhere. It's really cool.
Somewhere out there. Okay.
Yes, and what they made the CFL and Grey Cup look like, I mean, it looks like a Super Bowl.
Well, this year it was the Tyson. Oh God, who did he
Paul?
play?
Jake Paul?
That was
We all want to
only-
forget it.
That was only days before the Grey Cup, or they were within a week of each
No.
other.
It was because that fight was a Friday.
I felt
The Grey
like
Cup
they
was
were-
Sunday.
Yeah,
That's
so,
right.
It was that
So
weekend.
like I remember tweeting out, just being like, "Grey Cup production better than money grab
Yeah.
over here,"
Mhm,
and it,
mhm.
I think it was.
Oh, I get it.
And I'm not talking
production
about the
is great.
streaming part. I'm talking about
No,
just the live
The glitches
broadcast
and the
part,
whole-
which is,
yeah.
I mean, that's not as with that many like watchers and listeners. No pressure.
when it comes to the
Jeez.
CFL broadcast for Grey Cup, I do get a little annoyed because you see what they do on Grey Cup Saturday and Sunday, and you go like, obviously you're not going to go that way all season.
They
but
can't spend the
couldn't
money
you
all year like that.
But like some of their like, could you not do 75% of this throughout the season? It seems like throughout the year that it's a lot less, and then Grey Cup comes like you can do this well. Like you can't like at a higher level, and CFL fans just want a little bit more.
We
And
don't
they
want
can do
Tom. We don't want Tom to have to bite the hand that kind of feeds.
I'm not going to say
But, yeah.
I can
I
say
don't
whatever
think
I
they even
want.
know I'm on that
I can
broadcast.
say whatever I want. I don't get paid anymore.
I feel bad for the CFL like hardcore fans because they're so loyal and they have like such a love for it, and there's just this great hardcore layer of fans, and then like the Rouge arguments and like it's just it gets kind of
Hate the Rouge.
discarded sometimes, right? And
Rouge, keep it or get rid of it.
you keep it, right? You keep it.
Thank you.
But
I
But
really
it's a
like
bit only
Mark. I
because-
liked you until you just said that.
only because it gets people talking. No, keep it because it gets people talking.
I just like the fact that the root, and even though I worked 15 years in the league and in the business, I'm not a football nerd, a football purist. I just like the chaos.
Oh, you love chaos.
And I love the chaos of the CFL, the rules, and I have stood in that circle in the last walkthrough that you have in training camp before the first preseason game. And in training camp, you have a bunch of players who are new to the country, new to the league. They don't know our rules. And so that last walkthrough and hearing a coach explain one last time to guys who are about to get on a plane or get on the bus to play their first preseason game, okay, guys, one more time on the Rouge. Let's do a walkthrough and try to explain it is hilarious because you've got guys who've been playing football since Pop Warner.
Yeah.
Like they were stars somewhere. That was always the line. You may not know their name, but they were a star at their college, their university, whatever, but they're here in Canada. They're trying to make professional football their livelihood for a few years. And you have a coach going, some grizzled vet who's trying to explain to some real hot, cool kick returner from, down south how the Rouge is going to play out. And you see the look on their faces like, well, wait a minute. Then I boot it out. And then they boot it back to, hold on a minute. What? Like, it makes no sense. And yet it is entirely ours.
Yep.
So I would just say keep it.
I don't think I brought the Rouge up, did I?
I hate it.
Who brought that up? The Rouge.
You made a mention of the Rouge, and then
we've had
huge debates about
Sorry,
this.
everyone.
And
I hate the Rouge.
And I'm just, although Belsey's willing to make adjustments to it.
No.
As am I willing to make other adjustments to it. And you're just completely against it.
You took advantage of a situation mid-show where you kind of got Belsey on his back foot and he kind of swayed a little bit.
Okay, so two things. So either I got him on his back foot, which means he doesn't have a proper argument against the Rouge, and I won that argument, so he had to change.
Or something.
Or two, there are adjustments that can be made. Again,
you know what adjustment can be made?
Lucas
Get it out of there.
No. I will bring Lucas in, you and Belsey versus Lucas and I.
Turn that file over to the next commissioner.
Yes. Mike Moriali, who
That'd be
I
Mike
love
Moriali. Portions of this hour of the EST Hangout, they are brought to you by the High Product Marketing, official merch partner of EST, promotional products that bring the buzz. Check them out, thehighproductmarketing.com. Good little bounce off there.
Very good.
The EST Hangout live on Edmonton Sports Talk, tune in, iHeartRadio, on YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. Mark Rodgers with us here. What was your handle then
on the gold medal mark on the text line?
Gold medal mark in the text line. We got Dave Jamieson, Tom Gazzola, Iwanyk with you here.
I have a question or an interjection.
Yes.
Who are these signatures? Because
I will ask you guys afterwards to sign our wall too.
Oh, okay.
We have.
I see Jordy Mack. I see Fergie. No kidding. Jasmine's got a really
Jasmine's there.
Signature. By
I forgot who that one is.
Okay.
Oh no, that's Josh Clausen.
Yeah. Okay.
That's Hernan.
No pressure here. I'm gonna. Okay, we gotta sign.
Garen from the Combine crew. Can't remember. I'd have to look a little closely. Zach's there.
Eric, was it Sabrowski?
Eric Sabrowski's over there. Okay. We've got a few athletes. We have this like open space here, and I thought after a while, like, how could we fill it up? And I thought signatures. We got people coming in, especially for the Hangout, but other shows. Can we fill this out? And it actually comes across on the screen rather well. So
we have a piano cover that has signatures on it at CKUA. So it's like a huge grand piano cover, and there's two of them. So they retired one of them. So anybody that would come through would sign the top of the piano on the piano cover.
There'd be some cool signatures
there. Yeah, Tom Wilson, like Blackie and the Rodeo Kings, like drew a little thing of himself, like a little top hat and stuff. So yeah, there's and then every other campus station probably has like, because CJSR has like a big star and everybody signs it on the way in. But I mean, it's so random on who signs it, and it's just like you can't even read it. But it's still like a total blast. Like I'm eyeing up like putting my signature on the little bridge somewhere.
Oh, Matthew has a rule.
In here. Trying to keep it in here.
Matthew
for now.
has a rule.
This is what
in the
up there
dead
doesn't get on
space.
camera. It just gets on camera here.
Okay, good. I guess that's okay. I guess. So can I go inside the mic then, or no?
You just broke Mark's heart.
We'll figure it out.
I'm eyeing it up.
We'll see.
Negotiate.
There used to be at Nate in our 92. There was a CD rack that a lot of people would sign.
I
think they got rid of
wall.
that. I think they got rid of that one.
I did a couple of shows on NR 92. Did spoon-fed metal on Sunday afternoons.
Nice.
Did you go to Nate?
Yeah, I graduated 07.
Oh, right before me.
Yep.
I think it was 08. Yeah.
Go Ooks. I'm a Griffin too, though, because I went to McEwen for a bit. So, anyways, two weird flying animals: an Ook and a Griffin.
3 Nate grads from RTA.
Mm-hmm.
And what school did you go to? Did you take?
Yes, I did. Broadcast journalism at BCIT.
That's right.
They have a good program out there, don't
Yeah,
they?
they do. I finished, but I left the program early because you could complete your diploma if you had a full-time job. They would give you credit for completing the course, even though I moved on to Expo 86.
Cool.
In Vancouver.
My dad's choir sang at Expo 86, the Joseph Bergman's choir.
at the Canada Pavilion, or do you remember where they
Oh,
would
there's a
have
photo
performed?
downstairs with them in front of like what looks like a pavilion. So
Yes.
let's just say the pavilion.
Yes, or maybe it was,
No one's going to question you on that one.
Yeah. Oh, that's
yeah,
the
that was
I think
pavilion.
all the provinces had their own pavilions, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
wow.
Do the Expos still go on, don't they?
Oh, I would assume.
I don't think those
Think
things.
so.
I don't
Didn't
really
we
remember
apply
much
for
from it.
Expo?
I think we did apply recently and we didn't get it. World Expos.
We've been doing a lot of applying
Yeah.
recently.
Yeah.
World's Fairs. Okay, here we go. Let me see. No, that's not. Oh,
It was 86 though, right?
so there's one in.
Obviously.
Is this it?
That's why Expo Center is no
Expo
longer called the
2023 was in
Agricom.
Doha. What do we have here? I'm so confused by this. Oh, Universal Expo. Is it this one? Expo 2025 is in Japan, Osaka, Japan.
And they've had a bunch before.
And then after that will be 2030 in Riyadh.
The year makes it easy, like kind of rolls out. The Expo 86.
Yes.
So it's every 5 years now? Or every 10 years?
Wasn't it
every
in
5 years.
Montreal as well?
Hmm.
That's not the reason for the Olympics is the reason for the big
For the
stadium.
stadium. Yes.
Well, the
big O.
Montreal Expos.
Yes.
Duh.
That's correct.
Oh, is that the okay,
Yes.
right on.
Yeah, like what the hell is an expo?
I used to like go
Expo
to Trapper games. Like Trapper
69.
games were gold back in the day. My dad and I used to go to John Ducey Park, and it was. Do you remember the steel backing to the at John Ducey Park?
Did you go to the old Ducey?
I
Were you-
did.
And it
you
was
were
like,
late.
and a foul ball would hit it and go, shh, and it was like it was metal. It was like a metal, almost like chicken wire.
I remember everything. It was all green, right? And then I remember my dad. We'd always take a glove and ball, and my dad would take me underneath the stands. And we'd play catch.
Cool.
That's what I remember.
It
from
was
John
gone by
Ducey.
the time I moved here, because when I moved here to be the program director at
Yeah.
Shed, because we carried Trapper games,
Yeah.
because we were now a news talk and sports station, and they built what is now, what's the name of the field?
Remax.
So
Remax
field.
field, yeah.
I think it was 95, was it?
I went to the first game there.
Oh my
Yeah.
God,
I was at
I've
the
got
last Trapper game. That was
Me
great.
too. Rained out.
Likewise.
Times. Solid times.
sold the team, right?
I
The
blame
owners
you.
said, yes.
I'm kidding, Jim.
That's the one thing I always get mad at Hugh Campbell for. 1995.
95.
Opened May 2nd,
And they
95.
built it like they tore down Ducey.
Mhm.
Right? Again, it wasn't here. They tore it down like after the last Trapper game, cleared the site, and put up the new building in time to start the next season.
Right.
Yes, they
Well,
did
got
it
a
over the
skating
winter.
Rink there now, right? Like the
That's right.
Riverhawks are doing a little bit of a skating rink. I saw.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I
They
love
do a great
Riverhawk
job.
games. Are like
Oh, yeah.
total gold.
Muy bueno. Yeah.
Do I have that? I'm trying to see if I can find the full. Wikipedia doesn't exactly break it down that quickly. But yeah, they tore down Ducey at the end of the prior season.
Yeah.
And then it was open for May of 1995, ready to go.
I just remember the old backing of behind the plate was like a steel or a metal, and it would go. Shh, so I'm hoping somebody else will remember that.
I remember being at John Ducey Park, but I was really young. I just remember getting a foul ball.
Well,
Player
and
in
then
the dugout gave
players-
me one.
The players would walk from like the dugout to the locker room, and you could just cut them off and get autographs. So I have like a whole book of like minor leaguers. So I have to go through it and see if it was because Tim Sandlin was coming through.
Mhm.
Oh, sure. Of
Yeah, there's some
course.
names that would
Devon
have
White.
come through that one.
Yeah,
Devon White and our friend Jack Cookson worked in the visiting clubhouse.
Did he?
That's cool.
Yes, he
The
was.
Jose Valenzuela game was pretty cool. Like my dad and I went to that. It was pretty exciting to
That's right. He was a trapper.
for the one game, and it was just sold right out. It was awesome.
I always get sad talking Trappers.
Yes, I know you did.
JMO,
It hurts.
what was that like when you guys owned them? Because I remember like hearing or reading in the paper back then that the Trappers were owned by the Eskimos.
Yes.
And then I know 9/11 happened, and that was a way for the PCL to really get out of Canada because it was a hassle to go Edmonton, Calgary,
to
Vancouver.
live to operate in two countries,
And then to eventually just go only to Edmonton because Vancouver was gone.
Right.
Calgary had left prior to that.
Cannons were out. The Canadians
Yeah.
had not folded. They'd gone to a different league.
Yeah.
And they, of course, the Vancouver Canadians exist today at Nat Bailey Stadium. It was I forget how many years did we own the club. Was it 4, if I'm not mistaken? There were a number. Warren Moon put up money to help buy the
Oh, wow.
Trappers. There are these obscure busts that are in Commonwealth Stadium, which if you look and you're in the concessions, you'll see them. Moon, and there were a bunch of other notable local people, Jim Hole and some others, that put up money to help buy that team. And it was, well, they made money. I can tell I can tell you that it was very good for the coffers of the Edmonton Eskimos when they sold to Nolan Ryan.
Right.
As he moved it to Round Rock, Texas.
I
Round Rock
watched that
Express.
documentary on him facing Nolan.
Oh,
I watched
yeah.
that just a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
It's really good. Like, I mean, he was an executive producer, so. But like they go into the Robin Venture, like it
That
was
was
really.
classic.
They wait right to the end for that though. It's so good.
The Eskimos bought the Canadian. This is an Edmonton Journal article of the Canadian Football League. Bought the Trappers for $8 million in 1999. Then shocked baseball fans in 2003 when they sold the team for $10.5 million.
Make money.
Yes.
The Eskimos justified the sale by saying the PCL partners were unhappy having to travel great distances to and from Edmonton. Other PCL teams also didn't like Edmonton's playing conditions in spring and fall.
Right.
Yeah, there was. They would start the season on the road generally, for obvious reasons, and yeah, I mean there were challenges, but they ran a team and successfully because the Trappers had some very good teams here. They ran it for a long time. So,
Weren't there some
there were
Eskimos
critics
that were all of a sudden employed by the Trappers?
Of course, Terry Vaughn. When Terry Vaughn came back for his Wall of Honor celebration a couple of years ago, Dwayne Van Drusiak and I, when we saw TV, said, Terry, and for those of us who were there know the joke, Terry was the highest paid. We used to refer to him as Terry Vaughn, ... highest paid groundskeeper in the Pacific Coast League. Because we just moved Terry's money. This is pre-salary cap CFL.
Right.
So stuff was just, Doug Peterson was a bartender at Jimmy Ray's and defensive tackle for the Edmonton Eskimos. Because there was a free agent signing spree. Would have been, when did we get Vaughn? Terry Vaughn was on his way. This is a great story that he told. Terry Vaughn was supposed to go to Saskatchewan to sign with Roy Shivers, the Riders, and Roy Shivers done the deal. Danny Barrett, they got the hat ready, they got the news conference booked, that whole deal. And Terry was driving from Calgary to Regina, and Hugh Campbell got a hold of him and said, "Why don't you stop in on your way to Saskatchewan?" And so Hugh,
Because it's on the way too.
So of course Terry pulls in to meet, and they just said, "What's it gonna take?" And they just started peeling off dollars, and Terry never left. He just phoned the Riders and said, "Hey, sorry, man, it's just not, it's not you, it's me." And then the next thing you know, we're having a news conference and we're putting the hat on him, and it's like we have more money than you.
He was so
It's like
good.
the Dodgers now.
Yes.
It's like everyone's in there dancing, and you go, "Yeah, they're really good." And wow, yeah, they told me, my wife will love it here. And then the Dodgers just kind of go, "Stop. How much do you need? We have it." And that's how they used to do it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Weren't like a bunch of players like EPCOR employees, ATCO employees, groundskeepers at Telus Field.
Well, you would have to divulge your books as a community-run station or a community-run organization, right?
Mark, you're bogging down in details.
They were community owned, but they weren't actually they don't really
Would they?
speak to they don't the city was only a small portion shareholder of them. If I'm
I'm
not
just
mistaken.
used to the books being coming
Being
from
transparent
community,
and
being
yes.
coming from community radio.
Yeah.
Just what our operating
Well,
budget is. It's not hard.
we had
You
an
could
operating
shadow it.
budget, and you had a number that you could point to in an annual report that you would share, and that was available publicly. But you didn't drill down into some of the.
You didn't say Terry was making $50K as being the groundskeeper while also making this.
Well,
over here.
this
With
over
operational
here, it's
costs was just all
operational,
this.
just player salaries. Boof. There it was. Yes,
That's amazing.
it was great stuff.
Maybe Larry Thompson wants to buy a baseball team and get things going that way. By the way, this is the EST Hangout presented by Sentinel Storage, Canada storage experts, more than 2 decades helping Canadians through life's transitions. Right now, they've got the savings on, which is 75% off 12 weeks on 5x5 units. That ends Jan 31. Check them out, sentinel.ca for more information. I got in the full David Letterman.
Oh,
Belsey wanted me to
Well,
do
you
that,
read
and
one
it's
off
been
your
fun.
phone, didn't you?
I've got the offers.
Oh, okay.
So and then this has just got part of it, and then give it a nice little toss. That's how. And then
I've read
nasty chat.
I
and
did
all that
I did
stuff.
math one time on how many tags I did doing the chopper,
Oh God.
and it was like 25,000,
Oh,
Okay.
something like that. So I've read 25,000 tags on either Ched or 880.
We got to get a Rick Pinter story from you here.
Yes.
Yeah, so I
like-
worked for the Canadian Traffic Network, and so I was in the same office as Rick. So I was on 880 and Ched.
And for that, if you listen to a lot of radio stations or watch Global, the traffic reports come from CTN.
Yeah,
Which is the
and that
Canadian
was the
Traffic
same chopper.
Network.
So I was in the Global TV chopper,
Mhm.
sitting in the front left seat, and then Lauren Fink was behind me, and then the pilot was to my right. So yeah, Rick would be like next to me in the office, and he would come from St. Albert twice a day,
Mhm.
like
Wow.
on the hen day.
I knew that.
Yeah, it was. And so the one thing I remember him, he was like kind of a dry humor, I guess, right?
Yes.
And he's like, Mark, he's like, I remember the NHL when there was only 6 teams. And I was like, okay, so like, just so I know how old Rick is, I guess.
Mhm.
And then one time, like he would wear Beatles and like Led Zeppelin shirts, like
Mhm.
mostly Beatles shirts.
Yes.
I remember. And so I was like telling him about, I was going to a festival called Shredmonton, and it was just a bunch of metal bands. And so my band was playing, the one band I really love, Unleash the Archers, was playing. And so I was like, Rick asked me to get him a shirt. So, you know, I went to the gig and I got him a large or whatever it was, and it had Unleash the Archers on the back.
Right.
And so he would wear it like every couple of weeks, and I'd be like, Rick, like super sweet, man, wearing your Shredmonton shirt. But it was cool because when I got the interview, you know, they're introducing people in the office, and it was like, oh, and this is Rick Pinter. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, Rick Pinter. And they're like, yeah, everybody knows Rick. And when you come through the office, everybody knows Rick. But he was, he retired when I was there. And so it was, you know, he was on TSN, and then he was on Shine too.
Yes.
So he would
That's
be
right.
going back and forth. And so it was cool to be able to like say, at least I worked with Rick.
What year did he retire?
Maybe just before the pandemic.
Yeah, I wasn't
Yeah,
because
Did we have him? We didn't have him post-pandemic, did we?
no, but we brought him out at the Nasty Bash. I think that
Right.
was that the first time we met Rick Pinter? I think
I've never met Rick
Didn't he come in
Pinter.
the
no, he was at a
station?
golf tournament once. He was at a golf tournament once.
That's right.
And then he came in Nasty Bash, and at the Nasty Bash, he was wearing like Lakers gear. And that's when we learned he was like a Lakers
Well,
fan.
he's a
Like
Leafs fan, right?
oh, is he?
Yeah,
Did
so-
not know that.
That was the summer of the pandemic. I was drinking some whiskey, like the NHLPA whiskey, and there was a Dave Keon.
The NHLPA has a whiskey.
Yeah,
They
there was like
certainly
it was
do.
like Larry Robinson and
Oh,
Dave
wow.
Keon. So I asked Rick, I'm like, I got this Toronto Maple Leafs Dave Keon like whiskey. I'm like, do you want the bottle like with it full or do you want it empty? And he's like, I'll take the bottle, but it can be empty. I'm like, okay, so I drank the whiskey and then gave him the David Keon whiskey bottle, and I might have even dropped it off at his place. Pretty sure.
Nice.
But that otherwise, like it was, you know, he's pretty quiet guy.
I never
Sup-
met him.
Super nice though.
Became a nice little bit with the morning show.
Yeah, it did. It was funny.
I mean, the morning daddy likes and stuff and all the things that they got him to do. And
Yeah.
he was having a lot of fun. Low Tide worked with him.
Yes.
Did he not?
Yes. Tide worked with, yeah. If I've worked with a lot, Low Tide's worked with more.
Tide had some amazing stories about our old building.
Oh, God,
And
yes.
I'd be like, what?
Isn't there a log cabin in the middle of it or something? Or was? And
yeah,
the
the
doors
basement.
pull out the front and
You're right. I forgot about that.
There's a
Sun
studio
Walker
basement.
Broadcasting.
Yeah.
Yes.
There was a spot downstairs that was the smoking pit
Yeah.
that if you still go into, like it has just the mark, like the you know, whatever it is on the walls, because that's where they just went to go smoke. It wasn't
Yeah,
like
like,
a
I
filtered
have-
room or something, but that was the room you went to go smoke.
I've seen photos of people in the CJSR, like the university volunteer station, and they're just like smoking in the on-air booth,
Mm-hmm.
like just ashtray, like right next to the mic, you know, where
Yeah.
you hit the whoop.
Before my time, with the Eskimos, I mean, well before my time, they would have stand-up ashtrays by the player lockers. Not everybody smoked, obviously, but Dave Fennell would be finishing up a heater when they were doing player introductions, and he would like take a drag, pull his helmet down, and then blow the smoke out through his mask, and then they go, you know, and Dave Fennell, and out he would go. You know.
Eric knows all about this. There was this one Italian manager. Who was he managing at the time? Was it Napoli? I can't remember. He was famous for like walking out of the tunnel before the match, just finishing his dart.
Sure.
And put it down. And then he got him moved to Chelsea, and he took over Chelsea, and he wasn't allowed to do it. And he was like, what's he going to do? Like, this guy smokes all the time. Just this massive chain smoker.
Jack Parker, there are some great shots of the great Jackie Parker, who is an amazing person but I'll never forget so it's 1998. I'm working my first Eskimo game. And I am told to go to, again, this is in the old Commonwealth, and it's not the new that's long, it's like that's 13 years old. So this is Commonwealth as you kind of knew it. There was an area called the Directors Club. And I was told to go and get Jackie and bring him to the field for a pregame celebration where they were driving around in old vintage cars, whatever. I forget what we were celebrating. And so again, I am new. I'm a raw rookie. I've been in the job for maybe a couple of months. I don't know everybody, and I'm still a little in awe of, like, my boss is Hugh Campbell. I'm learning how to do this job, what I was doing, dealing with David Archer and Kay Stevenson. I mean, I'm new. Go and get the legendary Jack Parker. I said, okay, I'm on it. So I make my way to the room. And I go up and I say, excuse me, Mr. Parker. And Jack's standing there. He's not smoking, but he is drinking a glass of wine that looked like an aquarium. It's so big. And he is, and I'm Mr. Parker, I'm Dave Jamieson. I've got to take you down. We should get going now. I'll take you down the stairs and we'll take you to the field level. And I look at the wine and I go, I'm sorry, you really can't bring the booze with you. I'm sorry, it's city facility. And he goes, oh, that won't be a problem. And he proceeds to drain it in front of me. And I mean, it's not a little bit. It's not like, oh, I'll just knock this back and we'll go. It's like, whoa, like this is like an anaconda taking down a pig. Like just sort of wonk, 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 boof. Glass hits the table.
Okay, is anybody just got it up and left? Because I have to go to the bathroom.
Oh, no,
now
go.
so
Yes,
bad.
I know that happens all the time.
And he's just talking about
No, jump on out. The boys will show you where it is and stuff.
And so I just like, okay, get him down to the field. And through the whole time, I'm thinking, this dude's probably going to want a cigarette. But then he didn't for this. But there are great shots of Jack smoking on the sideline and cupping the cigarette in his hand. It's how it got done then.
That's not.
It's how it got done.
I love how you call them heaters. I always forget that. You always had the best names for things.
Just a heater. Just some menthol goodness. Just some mentholated goodness.
Yes.
Actually, it's funny enough, thinking back, you have quite a few cigarette stories.
What about Charles Roberts?
Well, there's the Charles Roberts story, smoking in halftime.
Oh, we're getting our asses handed to us in Winnipeg. It's like the first, and so I'm making my way down from the press box to go to our dressing room, which in the dungeon of the old Winnipeg Stadium.
That place sucked.
God, it was an horrific. The conditions in the visitor room were laughably bad, but almost charming. They were so awful. And I go down the stairs, and I mean, we're getting woofed. I mean, it's not good night for the old green and gold. Hot night, Winnipeg's loving it. I come around the corner and I'm confronted with Charles Roberts, who's probably lit us up for 2 TDs in the first, and he's smoothly moving towards like a 200-yard game.
Yeah.
And he is crushing a cigarette in his full game outfit. Like, why change? You're at halftime, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to get spatted up. And he's just casually sort of looking off into the night. They're probably playing Van Halen's Jump on the PA system, right? And just taking it down and looking off, thinking. And I thought to myself, that's a man happy in his work. He's just happy. He's playing a little football.
Making decent money.
Making some decent money. Go back to his one bedroom that he's probably sharing with a couple of guys because everyone's trying to kind of make their dollar stretch.
Yeah.
And he's just having a cigarette. Dave Ritchie's yelling at somebody in the room. Charles is out there loving life.
That's a good place to be.
Yes.
Some of the best teams that never won Grey Cups. Those Bombers
just
teams.
ask Milt Stiegel.
With Milt, with Kahari, with Charles Roberts.
That game where he caught that most famous
I
catch.
remember that
Couldn't
one.
believe
I was
it.
there. That was ridiculous.
What?
As was I.
Yeah.
It was a quiet room after. We always say, oh, it's a quiet room.
That one, I think there's a lot of
Quiet
people
room.
that one still hurts. That one still's there.
Oh, I remember.
It's when you unplug the Coke machine that's humming, because the coach says, "Everyone, listen up," and you just go, "Oop, power down, please." I think somebody wants to say something. Yeah.
The high of
Oh.
euphoria of scoring that touchdown. There's like 10 seconds left. They're on their, 2?
I hate coming. You
And they
want to.
blitz.
Everyone, just back up, right? That's
Yeah,
even
just
I know.
back up.
Just back up.
I hate having you on always and just like he does tell us this story. But there was the time Labor Day where Ed made the comment. Who was the coach?
Richie Hall.
Richie Hall.
We lost the game in the anthem. Like, it was a game so bad, and Labor Day has had some. I mean, people obviously, it's the penultimate game in a season.
yes.
Even if the Elks, Eskimos, or Stampeders are not good, it doesn't matter. That game sort of rises up.
Yep.
This is one of the years when Calgary just put the boots to us, and we come off the field and get in the room, and Richie Hall's a wonderful man, asks for quiet in the room. And he doesn't have a booming voice, not a commanding presence. And guys are ripping tape off, and there's sort of a hum kind of, but it's, murmur, 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 murmur. And I reach over. Ed Hervey's standing beside me, and we're looking at each other. And Richie goes, guys, I can't do his voice, but it's not.
Yeah.
Listen up. Now, I know we're going on the bye week. It was a tough game, but I need you to ask yourself, what kind of a team are we? And Ed Hervey leans to me like this, and we're all listening. He goes, when he says, what kind of a team are we? Ed goes, shitty one. And I said, pardon? Like, and I'm like, I want to burst out laughing because I think it's absolutely impeccable timing, and it's the funniest thing going. And I then just sort of retreat into the shower stall to hide because I'm like doubled over. I can't believe, and again, we've unplugged the Coke machine for perfect quiet in the room. Everyone stopped ripping their tape off. And then Ed just goes, whack, the truth. Ah, yes. Then we just sort of lumber out and get on the bus and drive quietly home.
That was when he was a scout still, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yes.
He could still be
He
a
had
bad
that
boy.
latitude.
Yeah.
He's just an honest one. I think if his team was bad, he'd even say it. If it was a team that he
We
kind
had to
of
start
dealt with,
two
so-
Canadians. We are in there's been injuries, and we've got Brad Smith,
I remember him,
the
the
great
receiver.
guy. Brad Smith, who then went on to host a dating show in Canada. He was the host. You got the rose.
Oh, yeah.
And a great guy, very funny guy. His father, Larry Smith, was the former commissioner and former Montreal Alouette,
right.
former, I think, publisher of the Montreal Gazette or something. We had to start Brad Smith. I think we might have had Stephen Giles at quarterback, we were not at our best period.
Mm-hmm.
And there was another guy, Tyler Scott, also a great guy. Those two together, Smith and Scott, they enjoyed nightlife in Edmonton. Okay? And Ed, I'm standing with him, and we look as the team is getting ready, splendid in their yellow pants, green top, yellow helmets, getting ready to go out on the field. And I look and I see these two of our starting receivers are Canadians. No disrespect to Canadians. They are vital to the league. And I take one look, and Ed looks at those two guys specifically, and he goes, we're officially screwed. Like, well, okay, so we're going to have a long night here at Commonwealth, are we? Yes.
I was probably there that night.
Yes.
I probably had to have and enjoy the splendor of Commonwealth Stadium beers because of that.
Right.
Tom Gazzola, Matt Iwanyk, Dave Jamieson, Mark Rodgers with you here on the EST Hangout presented by Sentinel Storage. You're headed off somewhere,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I'll be on a heavy metal cruise.
which sounds awesome.
Go on.
Yeah, so it's called 70,000 tons of metal.
Oh, that is brilliant.
Perfect.
So I've got I think I've had the website fired up here, but there's 60 bands. It's like 4 or 5 days out of Florida, sailing February 2-8, coming back on, or January 2-8, coming back February 1. And there's excursions like with the bands. So like my favorite band is Unleash the Archers, and you can go horseback riding with Unleash the Archers in Jamaica.
Of course.
And
Because that's what's more metal than I'm gonna go horseback riding with my favorite metal band.
I missed
awesome.
I missed it was the first excursion to sell out, and I didn't get in.
No.
I know, I was just like devastated. But thanks to the Bank of Mom, I'm able to like afford to go on this cruise. But Unleash the Archers like announced in July they were going.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, we're days away, and they've only announced 34 of the 60 bands.
Wow.
So, like, I don't know who half the bands are going to be, but I mean, I'm obviously going to go anyways. But Sepultura is going to be there.
Yes.
Candlemass, who would probably never come to Edmonton. So I'm excited to see them. And then, there's Emperor and Folsom Jetsam and Hammerfall. And so lots of good
Some heavy stuff.
power metal. Yeah, some pretty
Has
disgusting
some
stuff.
heavy
Now-
stuff.
Yeah, heavy for sure.
What a dichotomy. Heavy metal band taking you horseback riding. Is the bass player a farrier or something? Like, what's the connection?
Just on in
I don't
the
know.
beautiful
Yeah.
waters of Florida, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be in Jamaica, but like I don't know
Okay,
how
the
they
Caribbean.
decide that.
Okay.
I don't know how to decide that. I know the lead singer, she's got a cat. I don't know if they're like like if they're into that or how they got sort of. I don't know how that works, but it's not cheap either though. So it's an additional
Yeah.
cost on top of
Yeah.
the cruise and like on top of the internet and drink package and everything else. So it's like ticket price plus.
Oh yeah, cruises will get you on the plus. Get the drink package. Did Kiss not start those themed tours? Because
Could have,
Kiss got
yeah.
it naturally. If there's something to exploit
Kiss
and
was
sell,
there.
Kiss was there at the front of the line. But I think that like the Kiss cruises went on for years.
Well, and I've heard there's some bands that don't play the cruise because the cruises aren't necessarily environmentally friendly. So
yes.
some bands just like refuse to kind of do that.
Right.
So that's just something that I've heard. But the Facebook page is pretty funny because they keep like it's just ongoing jokes about how the bands aren't announced. And one guy has like statistics on like when they were announced previous years. And there's like a little chart and he's like, last year it was announced at this time.
It's like
and
the CFL schedule.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
hilarious. It's hilarious, but it should be sort of like a once in a lifetime. Like I feel very lucky.
No kidding.
So
be
when
able
do
to
they
go and do
start
that.
playing though?
Yeah.
Like,
It's kind of like a festival. They kind of go all day, right?
so some bands will be playing, and you might be docked, and then some will be on the excursion. It's 'cause, like 62 bands is a lot of bands to get through.
So it's kind of like you gotta really. They have an app that has the schedule because apparently the website or there's and that app is done by a separate person, but it's the best way to decide on where to go and who to see because you have to make decisions like because they'll all be playing essentially. So if I want to see Unleash the Archers, but Sepultura is playing over here at the same time, like
you got to
they're
make a
gonna do
choice.
probably 2 or 3 sets, right? Like Unleash the Archers will hopefully play twice, so I can like plan to see them hopefully both times. But if I want to see Sepultura, then I might have to make the choice, which is just like any other festival. And I heard there's lots of walking on the ship, so like I'm okay with that. I'm type 2 diabetic, so I gotta keep walking.
They're like
So-
little cities, those ships. They're
Yes.
huge.
Yeah,
They're incredible
pretty
what they
stoked.
look like these
I
days.
know.
But again, like I feel really like
Because there's got to be
Lucky
an
they
outdoor
go-karting
stage.
on
There's
some
got to
of
be
them
an
now.
outdoor
yeah,
stage.
there's an outdoor pool
I'm not
stage,
even
yeah,
surprised.
Pool
Stage,
stage,
yeah.
and then probably at least one theater.
Yeah, there's a
inside.
couple theaters. Yeah, it's huge. It's huge.
That's going to be, God,
I'm really
that's going to
excited,
be
yeah.
loud.
I bet the drink packages sold really well. Oh, for the metal
Well,
one.
and then because there's just like soda and coffee packages, but then the booze is just separate. And someone put a chart of the beer prices out, and it's like 12 something American plus 18% gratuity. So credit card might take a hit or two. I guess.
Oh,
there.
yeah.
But we'll see. Like, I mean, that actually might help me moderate, which is probably a good thing, So
Treat yourself, Mark.
I'm really
Yeah.
excited though. Like
That'll be a
lots-
fun trip.
Yeah, like I just want to reiterate, like I feel very lucky to be able to do this. Like I'm privileged to be in a spot where I can afford to do this, and it's going to be like a once in a lifetime thing. There are people though, and they call them survivors that go every year.
Every year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, that's their thing. That's probably
Yeah.
they save up all year to
Yeah.
make sure that they can go do that. That's the thing that they go do, and
That's wild.
But
That's
it's
awesome.
fun because like I have a volunteer radio show on CJSR, so like I could go and play a lot of these bands because like I mean I play Unleash the Archers quite a bit.
Yeah.
But it's there's only 30 announced, so I can't I don't know who the bands are. I can't.
Have they announced like major headliners yet?
Just
or-
all those ones I rattled off. I mean, there's no major. I mean, I don't know. What would you consider a major headliner?
I don't know. I'm going to trust your opinion on that one.
I would say Sepultura for
Yeah.
me. The ones that are announced, like that's probably the biggest, most recognizable name, I think.
So they'll probably get like a top spot.
Yeah, and it's their final tour. So
I have a question for you, Mark, about metal
Mhm.
and where it exists in sort of the ecosystem of music right now. We just had Metallica here for a couple of shows in
I got
Edmonton.
lucky to go. That one was fun.
Is in terms of sort of the top of the mountain, Metallica may not be the best metal band. I'm going to leave that to you and people that in your that. But are they the most commercially acceptable heavy metal band? And I hate labels.
Yeah, because their early stuff is heavy.
It's very heavy. Very heavy.
Yeah. Like they're easily like the top metal band of all time. Like you could say that.
Judas Priest, or are they more?
No, they're like, I mean, they're still like in the top layer.
Yes.
There is a really great metal documentary that's now almost 20 years old. It's called Metal: A Headbanger's Journey, and it's Canadian produced. Mike Dunn, or last name is Dunn.
Right.
Sorry, I'm not. I should have thought about that beforehand. But yeah, Canadian produced, and they did a series called Metal Evolution, and it broke down like all of the
Jeff
subgenres.
Walker wanted me to watch that so many times, and I still have not gone.
It will explain heavy metal too. Like I watched it with my dad, so because my dad's like, why? Like I would play do the spoon-fed metal on NR92, and it was like basically like trying to play like the loudest, craziest stuff I could find, right? And he just never like really understood why I was into that, and that documentary really does explain it, because it breaks it down to like the community, like the parts of the community that make it what it is, and it's such a tight community, and like in Edmonton, we're like, I think we're pretty good. I'd have to talk to Tyson from the Starlight Room, who does, who's like the authority in terms of metal in this province, because he's booking the biggest bands coming through. I would have to talk to him about, where metal, and like the Metallica, like, all those questions. Like Judas Priest would definitely be sort of like in that second layer of biggest bands of all time. But like the subgenres are like too extensive to really like, and you can I like clean vocals. So like this band, Lutharo, they're from Hamilton, and they've got a great lead singer, and they just came through the Starlight Room. And so I like clean vocals, but the vocals is a big part of sort of how it gets broken down. Because there's some people that like just don't like clean vocals at all, but I like to hear the lyrics. I like Freddie Mercury, so like all sorts of soaring vocal over the top. Dio, obviously, Dio Sabbath better than Ozzy Sabbath if you really want to get into it. But that's just my opinion. Like Ozzy's great, but Sabbath with Dio is better.
He's a better singer.
Yeah, and I got really lucky to see him before he passed away. It was Heaven and Hell, so they couldn't use Black Sabbath. So it was Heaven and Hell, but it was just Black Sabbath with Ronnie James Dio.
Yeah.
And Megadeth opened up, and then Down, which is like a sort of a derivative of Pantera, was supposed to open up. And Down didn't show up. Like they couldn't get across the border or something.
That old problem. That's happened before.
People left because
yeah.
Down wasn't there. And I'm like, you're going to walk away from seeing Ronnie James Dio. Like, go ahead. You spend your money. You're walking away from this show. Like, just because Down's not here? And then Megadeth, like, is good. So great opener, seen them before, kind of normal. But, Ronnie James Dio with Black Sabbath was like a big deal. And people were expecting to hear Paranoid and Iron Man. I'm just like, did you not realize, like, Dio did 3 records with Sabbath? They're not going to play Paranoid. Like,
right.
Why are you even here? Like, why are you even here? You should know what they're going to play. So anyways, Dio Sabbath over Ozzy Sabbath, I could kind of get going on that. But your question was originally about like Metallica and them being sort of like the top metal band of all time. And yeah, you could say that.
A bunch of texts have come in since Mark went on that spiel, which was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Someone texted in Edmonton's own Striker.
Correct.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
They were at the Lotharo gig I just mentioned.
I think we used to work with some guys in Striker.
Adam, maybe.
They were on the street team of the Bear.
Okay. Another text says, give me some dirty metal. I want to hear some death.
Yep.
And then Georgia Satellite texts in and says, are metal bands only allowed to use the same font? With a photo from
No, and I've always thought that you should have a.
That's
No,
a smart.
Well, you
text.
could have an app that actually deciphers the logos if you really wanted. Because yeah, some of them are ridiculous, and they're like that on purpose. Like they just go so far,
Yeah.
and it's just like. But Death, that person mentioned the band Death.
Yeah.
So there's two Deaths. One is Death from Detroit, and they were a proto-punk band from the 70s. That
Who
actually,
you played?
yes, I played last week,
Right.
or 2 weeks ago on CKUA.
That's right.
And then Death is like the sort of like a heavy metal, death metal band.
Yeah.
So like Death from Detroit is the original Death.
Okay.
So
They're like in that MC5, that whole
Yeah,
Detroit scene, right?
yeah, like people use the term proto-punk.
Yes.
I don't really get what that
I
is.
don't understand how you're a metal guy because we'd have heavy metal Mondays or metal
yeah,
Metal
Mondays.
Monday
Metal
was one of the
Mondays,
greatest. There was no
here-
other AM station, sports
you know what
station in
I-
the country doing metal like the Dave
No.
Jamieson.
Yeah.
No, but what I'm not. I mean, sitting beside Mark. I mean, no, I'm a poser. What I like about Mark's show, Mayhem in the AM, and what I like about Open Nights, and is I just like the authenticity of the music. Is all of it to my taste? Am I driving along, and sometimes Mark will be playing a thing on Friday morning, and I'll go, oh, even for me, my 63-year-old senses, that's coming in a little hot.
Yeah.
But I remember you playing Unleash the Archers, who I'd not heard,
Do you know
but
award-winning?
heard of, and I went, whoa, holy,
It's like power
that's really good. And so I'm not a musician. It's one of the many things in life I wish I were, because I feel like, Pete, these people are speaking a language. I'd like to know what they're saying,
Mhm.
like musicianship, right? And the musicianship in metal, I mean, the virtuosity is stunning. Like you go, I don't know how a human can do that, and how are they producing that? It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's not accessible. Like the vocal part of it is
Yeah.
really like if you get a lot of growly stuff, like it's hard to kind of break through that. And like metal is not easy listening. Like it's not a casual thing. Like, I mean, yeah, you can put it on in the background and it's kind of nice to have there.
You're not
Well, like-
vacuuming to it, or maybe you,
You
are.
could.
If
You-
you're,
I
It might
definitely
pump you
shovel.
up for it.
Well,
Yeah,
it
I
might.
shovel and like have some heavy stuff usually going, but like you really, yeah, I like it because you have to go more than just scratch the surface. Like you got to like listen to it a few times to like, because like Unleash the Archers will put out a record and I'll listen to it just like over and over and over again. I would consider Unleash the Archers more accessible,
Mhm.
but like Cannibal Corpse and other bands like that are just super growly are like a really quite hard to listen to. So I like it because yeah, it takes you a little bit and it's not casual or easy listening. And the community is like just like any other music community of people that like music.
Mhm.
It just they look a little more scary, but they will be the nicest people you have ever met in your entire life. Like somebody at
Yeah.
work had their kid going to a show at Union Hall, and so they're asking me about it. You know, it was their first time. They're a young kid going to a show for the first time on their own, and I was just like, yeah, it might look a little scary, but if they go into the mosh pit, someone will pick them up and help them out. And it's a community just like any other. It's just a little louder than others.
It's a loud community,
yeah,
which
just
is
a bit.
fine. It's like people
love
get
it, though.
surprised when they see bikers doing toy rides for kids.
Right.
And you're like, no. I know that may be jarring on some level, but they too have kids.
Yeah.
And they have, that is a community. I mean, I don't want to get off on all of that, but anyhow, all of that, that's why I sort of gravitate towards not only the stations Mark work at, because CKUA and CJSR. I started in campus radio at CITR, at first at Langara, which is now Vancouver University, whatever it's called now.
Nardwar Station.
Nardwar Station, yeah. CITR is at University of British Columbia, and that's where I got my start in radio. And so I've always had a soft spot, and always will, for both campus radio and listener powered. In the case of CKUA, absolutely, it's where I, if I wasn't doing this commercial radio and talk or sports, that's the stuff I go to.
Jen in the nasty chat. Freddie Mercury is the vocalist of all time. Sleep Token is incredible. One of my fave top bands. What do you think about them, Mark?
I have not dove into them like I should because they are huge.
Where are they from?
I don't know. Like I had never
Okay.
dug into them.
Sleep Token.
Yeah, like I heard
TOKN.
the name
Okay.
and I was like, I have a feeling I'll really like this.
Hmm.
But then I gave it a go and it didn't land right off the bat.
That was the first picture that comes up.
It's definitely theatrical, right?
Sure.
Like so.
That's awesome.
I have another question for you.
British metal band.
Yeah.
from London, England.
The Brits do theatrical quite well.
Yes. This used to be the Mead Hall.
Yeah.
Were you ever here?
I booked a gig here, yeah, one time. I booked 2 shows ever, and it was in this building.
Oh, hold on a minute. Like, back up. This was a concert venue?
Hall.
Mead Hall, yeah.
This literal space before it was renovated into an office, now a radio station.
Shut down
Was-
because of drugs.
Two
and that
big
wasn't
drug
Mead
busts.
Hall when it got
What?
shut down, because it was
Yeah.
something else when it got shut down.
Now,
And it
in
was
the
a
old
different
space,
owner.
it was just 4 walls and a roof?
I think that there was somebody said there was 2 levels to it,
I
and
think
there
the
was more
stage was
open.
downstairs.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
From 10 years ago, a music venue in West Edmonton known as The Studio was busted with narcotics, accumulating roughly $360,000 in drugs and cash on site.
So I booked with Mead Hall like maybe 5 or 6 years before that, and it was like 2 shows, and I was there with my friend Odessa, and we just were kind of new into, because I took the arts administration program at McEwen. Hello, Rose Ginther, she's the greatest. And so we were trying to get into arts and administration, and booking gigs, right? And so I gave it a shot, but that's definitely, I would rather like write you a really good and produce you a really good promo about your gig,
Right.
and talk about it
actual-
on the radio and tell people to go to your show. But like, I just was not gave it a shot. But yeah, I forgot that it
That's
was
tough business.
Yeah.
Hey?
whoever on purpose gets into the economics of a venue. Like, I mean, I don't, why would you do that on purpose? Like, it's impossible. It feels impossible. But again, Tyson at the Starlight Room and that whole team there is like what they got through the pandemic.
Yeah.
That building is almost 100 years old. They're 35 years old now as a music venue.
Awesome.
As
venue.
the Starlight,
outside of like Toronto or Vancouver, Montreal, like it is the most consistent Western Canadian venue for 35 years.
Mhm.
Like venues have come and gone. Unfortunately, Soho just had to close.
Right.
Mhm.
So, the economics of running a venue like that just
I
That's
saw
hard.
Todd Rundgren at the Starlight, and it was one of my favorite musicians was there with Tony Levin, the bassist from Peter Gabriel's band,
oh geez.
was on bass. And I mean, I don't have to explain the Starlight to you, the tilted.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because it
was
used
very
to be
cool.
the Citadel Theater, so that's why
Right.
it's tilted, right?
Oh.
Yes.
So when I worked at CJSR for the 30th, no, sorry, I'm getting them mixed up. I was a volunteer and did a 1-hour documentary on the 30th anniversary of the Starlight Room.
Mhm.
And it was a series called The Legends of the Edmonton Music Scene. And episodes of that series actually live on capitalcityrecords.ca. So it's kind of a long, complicated story, but we did about 110 episodes of this series called The Legends of the Edmonton Music Scene.
Right.
And the one we did one on the, it was just all volunteer driven. And it was a 1-hour documentary, and some of the stories about it were really great. Like the one that I remember Tyson told me, I don't know if anybody remembers a band called Dead Jesus.
That's what I was just going to ask you about. They would do their shows here.
So their Easter show, they would like have a real live person on the cross
Yep.
for their Easter show.
There's
yeah.
Facebook photos of this.
Yeah, a band called Dead Jesus so they would do that. And so they had a gig at the Starlight Room, and they were using like real like animal parts at some point. Cannibal Corpse. This is in the documentary. It's on it's not on Capital City Records, but Cannibal Corpse comes in like a week later, and there's this smell, and they can't figure out what it is.
Well,
And then someone like opens up the sound thing or whatever, and it's under the thing, and it's like a pig liver or something from the Dead Jesus show.
Oh,
So the guys from Cannibal Corpse were grossed out by something in
then
So-
you know it's bad. If
but-
those guys give it the old, even for us.
So that's
this
the
is a
one
bit
story. The
much.
other one was Guar when they used to come through, and then for a while you could see because they would spew like green and red.
They still do.
Yeah,
It's great.
It was
I got a little bit last time they were
it's
here.
totally like you got to do it. at
Eric,
least
myself,
once.
and Zach went
You got to do it once. You got to do it once.
to Midway last March,
So good.
and I got hit by it. It was great.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, it's pretty.
Guar.
Yeah. So if you go to a Cannibal or a Guar show, you definitely have to wear a white shirt.
yes.
so-
of course.
So you see it.
So the Starlight Room story is though, like for the longest time, you could see the red and the green on the roof from when Guar was through. And then it was Rich Bomber from the Free Cloud Records downtown, and he was in Mad Bomber Society. Still, I think they're still going. But he's legend, sort of Rich Bomber, sort of a local legend. And yeah, he told the story. And then like, I don't know, it's kind of gross, but they have like a baby that comes out and like they cut the umbilical cord and
Guar?
yeah. And the baby just goes flying and it hit Rich Bomber because Rich is working the back door stage
Sure.
because they got their get up, right? So someone needs to open the door for them because they're all full of their
yeah.
costumes.
They're aliens from coming to Earth.
Yeah, so that was Rich's job, was to be at the door, and so he's sitting and he's like he's free the whole night of anything, like all the liquid. He's in the clear, and then at the end of the show, the baby's in
Get hit by a flying baby.
Yeah, and it just so good. Anyways, that's the story about the Starlight Room.
I love gore.
Okay,
Great seeing them.
Cole Harbor Joe texts in and says, upstairs here
Yes.
was the merch store, apparently.
Okay.
And then Cole Harbor Joe adds, Calvin, former member of
Correct.
Dead Jesus,
Yes.
now owns the Rendezvous on 149th, also a music venue.
Valley of Despair, local band. They just had their Burn at the Stake EP release just this past Saturday at the Rendezvous Pub. Anyways, I played them both on both stations, CKUA and CJSR. Local group though, Valley of Despair. Check it out; they're so good.
The official drink of the EST Hangout, by the way. It is the Finnish long drink, legend in 1952, a drink unlike any other sparkling refreshment, real liquor. Longdrink.com/Canada. Enter your postal code and find the liquor store nearest you with the long drink. You can also get it at Rogers Place as they have the deal with OEG. We just have a few more minutes left on the Hangout. Today we got the Lock Shop, we got the Oil Stream, EST Afternoons, the Reed Wilkins Show with Jay Milne, who Jay also did text me and say that you did promise a hit from the cruise, or you would check in.
I could, yeah.
Oh,
I could
please
call
He
do.
you guys.
said you promised the Reed Wilkins
Please
Show you
do.
would check in with us during
I'll
the
totally do
cruise.
that.
So
Yeah. I'll see what I can do,
about
whether
that.
it's even just like a quick video and I'll send it in or something, or
Yeah.
I'll figure it out.
If people want more Mark, you've got the two shows.
Yeah,
Tell
so
us about what you've got.
CKUA is a large-scale community radio station. So it's like a campus station, but it's huge, and we pay our announcers.
Yeah.
So everybody's a paid employee. So I have Saturday nights, 9 till midnight. It's called Open Nights. So it's 3 hours of openness to anything upbeat, because I did get kind of a cranky text on Saturday.
They didn't get the show.
No, but
They don't
I was
understand
able
the show.
to kind of work it a little bit. Like, thanks for email. Like, thanks for texting in. First time texter too.
Okay.
Nice.
Well, that's
And
good.
so they were just like, it was fine. It was great. And they, eventually
It was too much for them.
it was a little, and it wasn't even that much, but yes. So that's Saturday night,
That's
open
relative.
nights. So that's 9 to midnight, and that's on demand.ckua.com. So
Okay.
the show airs, and then it's on demand for a week after, and that's every show on CKUA. Holger Peterson has been doing the blues show for like over 50 years. Like, it's the longest running radio show in Canada. Holger Peterson, Saturday afternoons. The whole schedule is at ckua.com, but it's high level, I would say, high level community radio.
Very high level.
So then I do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
very
you.
high level.
So then I do a volunteer radio show on CJSR in the mornings on Friday,
Mm-hmm.
and that's 2 hours, and it's called Mayhem in the AM.
88.5.
88.5. So I volunteer there. I used to be an employee for about 3 years. So I was an employee there for their 30th anniversary. They're now 30 or 41. So on 88.5. So that's just metal, and I pick all the music on both shows. So Mayhem in the AM starts at 6:66 a.m. because the BBC goes to 7:06. So I let the BBC ride, and then I cut in at 6:66, and then I just play heavy metal, and I go till 9. So that's a volunteer show. So I've been doing that for like 2-3 years, because I did a show before that called Soul of the City. So I think I've been volunteering at CJSR for like 13 or 14 years.
Damn.
Yeah. And there's like some really great broadcasters over there too. Like Grant Stovall, CKUA
Yes.
Morning
Yes.
Show does a blues show.
On Wednesday nights.
wow.
Anyways.
Saturday nights, I know they do more EDM. Friday nights have
Oh,
Jamaican.
Saturday is stacked.
It's-
Saturday is stacked with electronic music. Like, it's unreal. Unreal.
Thanks to Eric for mostly putting me towards them. My two favorite radio stations are
David
CJSR.
Stone, right?
Yeah.
David
Stone.
he's
Huge.
He's the first
over 20 years,
one.
volunteer over 20
Second
years.
one.
He was on the board for a while. Hardcore volunteered.
Also-
CJSI and CKUA are my two favorite radio stations. Just
And
straight up,
if
they
I-
are
if I-
wonderful. You never know if you don't know what's going on. Like, you never know what you're gonna get when you throw on those stations, which is 88.5 and 94.9 for CJSI or CKUA.
Thank you.
Jazzology, I'll give a shout out to Steve
Steve,
McLeod
yeah.
on Sunday
Sundays.
mornings, 9 to 11, and then Purple Room Radio, which is,
Not 2 digs. Yep.
you got to go, if you like What
He's
do we
on
wanna
Saturday now.
Really?
I think he's on Saturday now. yeah.
Okay, it's stunningly good.
He won a National Campus Community Radio Award. for that
As
show.
he should.
Called the Purple
It's
Room.
that
Shantu
good.
Diggs. Yeah.
Yeah.
2 great radio stations
Yes.
with some great music, great selection.
Thanks
They
for
did
the
awesome.
plugs.
Oh,
Hey.
it's,
Oh, hey.
and they're my presets. Those 2 are 2. If I'm not listening to EST, I'm listening to CJSR, CKUA straight
I
up.
live and breathe those
So,
2 radio stations. I love them both. It's pretty fun.
And when
good
coming
stuff.
from commercial radio and stuff, like it's the innocence still. Like it's radio at its essence. Those 2 stations, right? And that's what makes it, at least from all the years in corporate, like it.
Yeah, like I
I
did
love
3
it.
years of commercial radio in Grand Prairie at Q99, today's hits and yesterday's favorites. Like, and that
Of
I still
course.
remember the tagline, and that
It's
was like
just
15 years ago.
Those people at the
course.
very high, they've ruined some things, but CJSR and CKUA still have some of that innocence of radio, which is
Yes.
wonderful. Mark, really appreciate you
Thanks
coming
for
in.
co- yeah, thanks
JMO, thanks for stopping by.
Always good.
You've got a well stream coming up at noon. Thanks to everyone
know
for
it.
tuning into the EST Hangout presented by Sentinel Storage. As I've mentioned, the Lock Shop coming up next with Dusty. I don't think Huss is back. I don't know if it's Huss is back yet from the Chiefs. I guess we'll find out in a few minutes right here on Edmonton Sports Talk. Your clear choice for Edmonton Sports. Don't go anywhere.
Let's go.
There you go, right in front of the camera.
First time guest, long time listener, fan of the original draft commissioner.
Welcome to the EST Hangout presented by White Claw Hard Seltzer. The difference is clear. Matt Iwanyk, Tom Zola with here. Joining us today,